3 minutes until showtime. Two minutes until showtime. One minute until showtime. Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Insurrection, obstruction, indictments, civilly liable for sexual abuse. The one man responsible for all that could be sitting in a prison cell on election day and still be elected commander-in-chief for these United States. That man is beholden to Putin, weakened NATO the last time around, and is currently tying himself to wealthy Saudi oil money. He enriched himself when government stayed at his properties. He campaigned on wanting to use government to go after his political rivals and wants to expand executive power. If Donald Trump is re-elected, our nation is lost. So let's roll up our sleeves, get to work, and tell the MAGA folks no more before it's too late.
Welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left. That's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you from New Orleans, Louisiana. To join the conversation, it's area code 914-803-4131. That is 914-803-4131. Just come into the chat, not at Blog Talk Radio, but over on YouTube or Twitch, Twitch is twitch.tv/LiberalDaneRadio. The YouTube channel is just liberaldaneradio.com. Either way will get you into the chat. Just leave your area code, where you're calling from, and what your username is and handle, so we can know who's who, and I can get to you in all due haste. You can also join the chats in both of those places as well. If you haven't liked the video, please like and subscribe to the channel. Share the channel, share the links, because this is the beginning of the 13th season of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, that's right. I'm encouraging everybody to do 13 things to help the show. Be it like 13 videos, share 13 videos, comment 13 times on videos, or buy 13 gifted subscriptions or memberships. Whatever you want to do the 13, do it the 13 in your own way, whatever way you think you can do it, whatever way you think is best for you. Just help the algorithms out, and that'll be an awesome way to show your support. I don't need the money to help. I need more of the analytics, but of course I'm always happy to have any contributions, like to Venmo at Liberal Dan on Venmo, buy me a cider at go to liberaldan.com, click the Buy Me a Cider button, or go to buymeacoffee.com/liberaldanradio, or you can become a Liberal Dan Radio patron, patreon.com/liberaldan, or patreon.liberaldan.com. Either way gets you there as well. I have puppy mouths to feed, human children mouths to feed, and car repair bills to deal with. I'll talk about that in a second, because that's going to be interesting. Was not expecting that one to come up on me. And auto insurance really sucks too. Shout out to Jolie for being a Liberal Danimal for 8 months. Thank you so much for your support, as always, and for your help. As with you and Aaron being the two awesome members of the Mod Squad. Appreciate y'all. We got Trucker John in the chat. Fancy Alarasia. Did I say Jackie? I don't know if I did or not, but it'll say it twice, I guess, if I have already. Surrender Monkey. Roxanne, not putting out the red light. Josh. I know I missed somebody that I saw. John, good to see you, John. Marie, Chris. Thank you everybody for showing up on the later night episode of Liberal Dan Radio. Of course, the reason why is we lost and gained power today 7 times. That's right, 7 times today. We've had power surge. 8 months for Aaron as well. I was wondering when that would happen too, but we got 8 months for both the Mod Squad. Liberal Danimals for 8 months. Thank you all, as always, for your support. Happened first around 10:30, and then it happened again, and then went off, reported it off, went on. Then it went off at about 11 something as well. Reported that again. It was supposed to be off till 2:30, but it came back around 1:20. And then I was out with the pups, and all of a sudden it went down again. It came back up, went down again, and then we're like, okay, well, let's not open anything, no freezers, no fridges, because we can't do that in a power outage. I went to go out and get some fast food, and lo and behold, while I was gone, it came back on, turned back off, and came back on again. So that should be 7. Hopefully I'm not doing MAGA math, but that should be 7. And yeah, so this hasn't been a very fun day power-wise. I'm very glad the power's back on. A, because I can do the show, and B, my sleep apnea doesn't, like the fact that when I can't use a CPAP machine. So there's that too. So, does it matter if I leave a comment about this video in the comments, or can it be done about Star Trek? If you want to talk about I'm not like that other person who we streamed briefly, who had expletive-lated rants. I'm not like that person. If you want to leave an off-topic comment about Star Trek, go right ahead. Any type of comment helps the algorithms, and as we all know, Al Gore needs more rhythm. But which is funny, last show when I actually went over, because somebody had mentioned that this person, that I was mentioned in the person's chat. I briefly perused the channel after my show, and was like, I couldn't find anything where I was mentioned, whatever. What was interesting, though, is that we went over there and did a little bit of stream sniping for just a few seconds, heard her expletive-laden rants about her not wanting people to talk about off-topic things on her in her chat room, which doesn't make any sense, because if you want If you want the algorithms to be hit, you want people to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. That helps the algorithms, but she has her feelings, and I guess they're valid for her. And then we turned off the show. We went back to regularly scheduled programming. After this show was over on Monday, I went back to go see what she was still on the same stuff. She was still talking about how she doesn't want people in her chat talking about things that are not related to the topic that they're talking about. I'm just like, wow, I thought I could ramble on the topic for a long time. She took the cake. And maybe I need more people to take the cake. That might make me slim down a little bit. But, it happens. And, I should have had this queued up already because I was planning the joke. But,
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. What's up, Surrender Monkey? Yeah, so, anyway. I did respond to you already, so there's that. What else? What else to talk about? So there was that. So that's something I've been dealing with all day, and it hasn't been fun. What else? Oh, yeah. So my wife has been dealing with Bell's palsy, and normally Bell's palsy is something that kind of will go away after a while. But for some reason, her face is still kind of frozen on the one side, and it's a little better than what it was, but she's still not getting the help that she needs. So fortunately, our insurance covers people from across the country. So my wife, sometime, actually, I think she's leaving next week. She's going to go up to Baltimore and go actually see some specialists at Johns Hopkins about the whole thing. It's fortunate that I'm from Baltimore because she'll get to stay with my dad and my stepmom, and she'll get to stay with them. So she'll have a place, she'll have family up there to be with, which is nice. Nice that you can count on some family members. But in order to make sure that the drive was safe, she was like, all right, let me go get my oil changed, let me go get my tires rotated, doing all the normal stuff. And they're like, okay, well, you do need two new tires on the rear, and you need an alignment, and you need brake pads. So you need new brake pads. I'm like, really? So the amount of money that we were saving on not having a flight, not because she was driving up there, the amount of money she would be saving from not flying is probably now being all eaten up by the fact that now we have to have work done on the car, which is, not fun. So there's that. I've also found out that I was talking about my struggles with trying to get appropriate care for my weight to try and help me lose weight. And we finally found out the reason why my Zepbound was denied. It was because they put the wrong information on the Zepbound prior authorization form, and now it's too late, so they can't send another prior authorization for, I think, 48 days. Because once you're denied, you have to wait 180 days to do another prior authorization, which absolutely sucks. But I'm really pissed off at my primary. I'm almost to the point where I want to go find a new primary care physician, because it's unacceptable that I could have been on the medicine for GZDR forever, or I guess it says, dude, the answer is Ozempic over in Twitch. I can't. They don't cover it. So they won't cover it. So, period. I would love to be able to get on some sort of injectable. The only one I think I can get on is Zepbound, and my doctor's office screwed up. Now, I can get some combination where I have to actually inject myself with the syringe instead of the pen and do all that stuff, and that's like plan C at this point. And if we have to go there, we'll have to go there. But until we go there, I don't want to ruin the ways to be able to do it via my insurance. Plus, there's the fact that Louisiana law is now going to be requiring insurers to actually cover weight loss surgery. And the reason that I haven't tried weight loss surgery in the past is simply because of the fact that I didn't want to take the risk of, if something happens and you have a complication because of the weight loss surgery, it's not covered by your insurance either. So I want to make sure that it's covered. But it unfortunately does not look like they will be required to cover it as an existing plan until January 1st, 2026. So until then, hopefully we can get the Zepbound dealt with in a month and a half. So maybe by Halloween, I'll be able to have a nice treat. Hopefully they won't play another trick on me. Yes, Roxanne, it is absolutely maddening. Once I read that it's like they're bending over backwards to not give me the care that I need, especially because of the fact that if it wasn't for the mistake, I might have been on these medications already. So, and then you have people, there was I forget where I read this, but there was somebody talking about, I don't know if it was Facebook or if it was Reddit or some other place, and they were talking about, or maybe it was Twitter or X or whatever. They were talking about how people are calling like these shots, these injections, cheats. Like this is a weight loss cheat or something like that. And people are jumping in. It's like, yeah, it's a weight loss cheat or whatever. And it sounds like the exact people. It's like, these are the same type of people that want to deny you the ability to get student loan forgiveness. They want, because they didn't get the opportunity to do it, so you shouldn't have it either. These people lost weight the way that you're supposed to lose weight, which is by eating less and moving around more, which is kind of toxic thinness, or I don't know if there's a better way to refer to it that way, but not everybody can simply eat less and move around more because of the way the American food system is set up, because of the way that not all obesity is related to just simply those issues. And a lot of times obesity, again, as we discussed in a previous show, is a symptom of other issues and not the cause of those other issues. So people who are skinny either because they've worked at it and was able to be successful with weight loss, or because they're just naturally skinny, maybe type I think there are a lot of people, and I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but I know a lot of people who with type B blood who just are just naturally skinny, and it's bizarre how everyone that I knew that was working at the place where I was working at the time was like, oh, you're type B blood? Oh, that's why you're skinny. Meanwhile, I'm type A, and that's maybe why I'm not. People with type B blood supposedly have an easier time losing weight than people with type A blood. I don't know about O or AB or whatever the case may be. Chris, patients shouldn't get penalized for their doctor's mistakes. If only. I 100% agree with you. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and the insurance is going to be like, well, it's your doctor's fault. Blame your doctor. Don't blame us because we don't want to let them do another PA. It is very frustrating. I'm very happy we have NHS here. Refuse to see them because I'm lazy. I really need glasses. I do have new glasses. I don't know if you've noticed. These are new frames that I got. So new eyes, new me, I guess, right? But yeah, I constantly talk about how I want universal healthcare, like Medicare for all. And we need the votes to get there. I made this video. It was a video on TikTok, but I probably should post it to YouTube as well, simply because there was this person who was like complaining about blue MAGA and how we're horrible people. She would probably label me blue MAGA because I would say that people in states that matter need to vote blue no matter who. So that to them is blue MAGA, and how she's complaining that Kamala Harris is moving the party to the right. I'm like, no, she's not. But anyway, the point of the matter is that I was talking about how we need to not just be myopic and looking at that one. We need to look at every seat and move every district, every seat to the left of what it is currently. And that means sometimes supporting centrists in certain districts, and sometimes it means supporting leftists in certain districts, because the more left we can move Congress, the more left of policies we can get, like Medicare for all, which is something that polls very highly. Of course, the Affordable Care Act, adding the public option to the Affordable Care Act, polls even higher than that. Not that I think that we should be judging our policies based off of what's popular or what polls well, but at the end of the day, if we got universal coverage because we were able to get Medicare, or we were able to get a public option where people could opt into it and buy into it using their own tax dollars and save money on premiums, I'm all for it. I'm willing to be. That's why I call myself a pragmatic progressive, because I'm willing to be pragmatic about how we accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish. Unfortunately, you have people that are willing to shoot themselves in the foot, cut off their own ears to spite their faces, whatever other cliche you want to use, they're out there. So nobody will tell me if I'd be better getting my eyes checked while I'm drunk or sober. Does it matter? I'm mostly drunk, by the way. I mean, if you're getting your eyes checked for like on the road conditions, you probably want to probably want to have your eyes checked under the same conditions that you'll be driving, and I hope you'll be driving sober. So, let's see what else. What's up, Robin? Well, you hope my mechanic is trustworthy. Well, the mechanic is the people at Kia, so I trust them as far as I can throw them. Although Kia, the people at that place are not the people who run like Hyundai and Kia Finance, who are the other issues that I talked about the other day, which is why I'll never buy another Kia again. But, you know, as Donald says...
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Chris, I would say go in the state that you are the most. Unless you have to drive yourself there, of course. What else? So, one thing I did want to talk about... before I started the show today, while I was eating dinner late, because we had a late start to the show, one thing I was looking at was, Alex Wagner was on MSNBC, and she was talking to some guest, I don't remember what his name was, and they were talking about Donald Trump and his attempts to kind of spread out and try and reach maybe some more people, and the more people that they're trying to reach out are people in the, quote, Manosphere. And they used examples like Logan Paul. They used examples like, I forget what the guy's name, but he's a comedian with a mullet from Louisiana. Trump was interviewed by him. They talked about cocaine use. It was very weird. But of course, as Tim Walz says, they all are just very weird. They're just very weird people. And Alex Wagner and this other person were talking about how is the Manosphere a new thing? They've never heard of the Manosphere before. They've never heard of this sort of stuff. This must be new in this election cycle. And I looked over at my wife, and I was like, where has she been? Are you hiding under a rock? What the hell are you talking about? The Manosphere has been around for a very long time. Almost probably since the dawn of the internet. You've probably had, IRC chats way back in the day where men got around and harble-garbled about how horrible men are treated in the patriarchal society that we live in. I've been doing the Unraveling Toxic Masculinity videos for a good bit now at this point. It's a playlist that I have. You can see it on liberaldanradio.com. But I had wanted to talk about these people for the longest time. Sorry, a little crack into Billy Joel there. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike because of my bad singing. I should get some sort of strike for my bad singing though, right? Anyway, so I've been wanting to talk about these type of people for a long time, and not just the folks from like the Whatever podcast or the Fresh and Fit podcast and how they talk about relationships and women and their toxicity when it comes to, alpha males and stuff like that, and red pill and blue pill. But I mean, these people have been around for a very long. I remember looking at these blogs where we had people who were talking about how I forget what the one guy's name is. It's been a while since I've discussed him. But these people who put undue weight on false rape accusations, for example, one of these people proposed the idea within the Manosphere that you should, as jury members, until they fix the problem of false accusations, that you as juries should vote to acquit anybody who is charged of rape. Doesn't matter if the facts prove that they're rapists or not. These people would tell you that you should use jury nullification to not convict these people of the crimes that they were accused of because they put undue weight on false accusations. And these people have been around for like at least 2006. I'll say 2006, maybe 2007. I don't remember looking at that stuff any earlier than that, but they probably still existed well before that. But that was my introduction to the whole manosphere, was back then. And since then, I've been arguing with these people because on the show, I tend to want to put more of a focus on victims of, sexual assault and rape and everything. I think that there's discussions to be had about false accusations, but I think we should be responsible in how we talk about them, and we should be responsible in making sure that we don't elevate that to actual, rape cases, sexual assault cases, people that are victims. We should, if we're going to talk about those small things as a topic, we should talk about those other things much more, like how the Brock Turners get away with their crimes and how other people get away with sexual assault, or how people can claim affluenza for not and use their privilege to be able to avoid jail terms, or oh no, what happened? This person's life will be ruined because of a mistake that they had. They didn't make a mistake; they raped somebody, right? But these people in the manosphere, these people who give undue weight to false rape accusations, these people who do these things, have been around for a very long time. And how Alex Wagner has missed, I don't expect everybody to know about them, but if you're going to be doing a news show, and if you're going to be having one of the topics of your news show be on the manosphere, shouldn't you do a modicum of research to be like, oh, well, let's see how long this thing has been around for, instead of just saying, well, I've never heard of it, so it must not have existed until I heard of it. That's almost like MAGA level logic at that point. You don't hear about it, so it doesn't exist? That's absurd, because it has existed. And I've been arguing with these people for years and years and years, and I've been talking about those people on the podcast for years and years and years, which is what made me want to eventually have a series of videos that tackle the people who are the MGTOW, the men going their own way, the incel types, the red pillars, the black pillars. I think that's a new thing. I think black pillar might be a new thing, or something new to me at least. But all of these alpha male, sigma male, beta male, all these type of folks, they've been around for a very long time. And if you are on a national news program giving your opinion about the topics of the news of the day, and all of a sudden you're approached with this idea, let's talk about the manosphere, you, or at least the people who help you make your show, should be doing some of your own research to figure out, oh, this thing has been around for a while. These people have existed. This is not some brand new thing. Logan Paul's not, new. Logan Paul's been on the internet forever. And while it might have started a while back as just a bunch of prank stuff, or stuff for the Vine and on Vimeo or whatever, and now then he moved up to, YouTube and whatever, and now he has his own, now he's a wrestler, now he's has his own energy drink, whatever. These people have existed forever. And the fact that not only you don't know it, Alex Wagner, but the fact that your guest also didn't know it, just had my mind just exploding. And immediately after I tweeted about it, 2 people immediately liked the post, within a minute. And I don't think these people followed me, but had followed me before, but they immediately were just like, and then they commented and retweeted or whatever. And it's just yeah, this is crazy that people who are this well-known in media don't know about this thing that has existed for a very long time, which is why we need a wider array of people talking about these issues and fighting these issues, because if the people on MSNBC are ignorant of something that's been around for a very long time, we need other people in the trenches doing the hard work. We need other people in the trenches fighting the fight. We need to elevate the people who are going to talk about how horrible these people are and who have been talking about how horrible these people are. Shameless plug, me, and other people like me, people who have been fighting the fight against the manosphere. It just absolutely blew my mind. And so I don't know if Nick is in the chat or not, maybe because we're late. But there's a rant for you, Nick. There's a good long rant for you. The fact that I'm annoyed at MSNBC for just having people, not having anybody on the staff who's like, you know what, this thing has been around for a while, and maybe we should, before talking about how Trump's trying to reach out to them, maybe we should look into it and see just how long they've existed and why they're toxic. And, you know, maybe we should then elevate people a little bit higher who are fighting the toxic masculinity that are promoted by the people in said manosphere. So what do you think of this video? Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and of course, have a good day. So of course I was recording that just for uploading after the show, because it's just absolutely bizarre that these people don't know about the manosphere types. Let's see. Josh ate too much pasta. Are you gonna pass away because of it? See, I can't find veggie pasta anywhere. I don't know if Imperfect has it, or they're not Imperfect anymore. They're on another brand, but maybe I should share the code if you want to sign up for that. Robin, LOL at bad singing strike. Oh, you know, it is what it is. Sorry, Donald, I stole your line. They accuse those women of being gold chasers. So they're responsible. Yep. Gold diggers. Yep. Hey, gang, turn down the shirt a bit, Dan. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. It's one of my yellow Disney shirts. We have laundry to do, so tonight might be today was supposed to be laundry day, but it couldn't be laundry day because I didn't have power to power my laundry. So I had to go grab a shirt and throw it on before I came on here. Let's see. Robin M. Been around for a while with a new term, Manosphere. I don't think it's that new. I think I've heard it referred to as the Manosphere for a very long time. Certain monkey. Oh, that's what the Manosphere is. I rejected being a normal man at 16 when I was classed as being responsible for my crimes. Called it menopause. I'm not a criminal, by the way. Well, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure what the point you're making there is, but yeah, there are guys who just are very loud about how horrible it is to be a man in society, and some of those people have elevated themselves to, like, you know, huge podcasts like Whatever and Fresh and Fit. Other people, like, you know, maybe do other things within the manosphere, like, you know, your Logan Pauls or that other dude I can't think of. Charlie Kirk is the incarnate toxic male, and Alex Wagner doesn't know who he is. I mean, I'm sure Alex Wagner knows who Charlie Kirk is, but and that's what makes it even sadder, is the fact that she probably knows who Charlie Kirk is and doesn't know what the manosphere is. I'm like, how can you know one and not the other? They're all intertwined. Tim, thanks Liberal Dan and Trucker John for not working for the Russians. Well, the Russians wouldn't have targeted me, right? The Russians wouldn't have targeted me for playing videos because I'm a leftist progressive type channel, and the Russians, as they said, their goal was to always promote their preferred candidate, and their preferred candidate is obviously Donald Trump and not Vice President Harris. So, but yes, I'm not going to sell out to Russia. No, you will not get me selling. I will not sell out to Putin. No, Slava Ukraini. Power My Laundry could be a good tune. Maybe I should think of a parody for powering the laundry. Adlohim. So is Harris for fragging, or did you mean fracking, Adlohim, or do you mean fragging? Let's see. With few exceptions, there are no real reporters in air, only news readers. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, Aaron, thank you for picking that up. Hey, Kimchi, what's going on? Goddess Kimchi, good to see you. The alphas are in the manosphere. Yeah, I reject their premise. Always have, always will. Yep. I mean, again, there's all sorts of people who are in the manosphere, and the manosphere is unrelenting in their sheer annoyance. And it's no shock that Trump is targeting these people. because they are, you know, they're natural fits amongst a MAGA culture. That's just all it is to it. So I'm shocked they didn't try and go for it earlier. But, you know. Yeah, Robin, yeah, she's not stopping fracking. Why haven't you fallen down a fracking hole yet in Oklahoma? Nice. Good pun there, Robin. I appreciate it. So I don't even know. There was one thing. I keep forgetting. I wanted to make this the Hypocrite of the Week, but, I didn't have technology available to me to do anything today because of, lack of power. However, you had people on like Jeff's show complaining about wind farms and if wind farms are bad for the environment, and they make they're bad for birds supposedly. If they're in the ocean and they fall apart, the pieces go into the water and the fish eat them, and so now we're eating the parts that the fish eat, and then it also screws with the radar for the fishermen or whatever. And the conservatives love talking about environmental issues as long as they can attack green energy, but they'll never worry about the same things about oil or fracking. If fracking were to poison the groundwater, if fracking were to poison lakes and streams and rivers and screw up the fishing in there and screw up the people who might be making a living off of, fishing in those areas, you'll never hear a conservative talk about that. You'll never hear conservatives talk about wanting to clamp down on oil, despite the fact that when the Macondo oil well, the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe happened that killed 11 people, it also poisoned the Gulf for a good bit, where you couldn't make a living as a fisherman. Fisherman or shrimper or whatever type of fish or seafood you were trying to look for, it was very difficult to find in the Gulf because you had all of this oil that was poisoning the food, and you couldn't actually get any food from the place where you should be getting food from. But you'll never hear conservatives talking about how we need to shut down the oil rigs because they're a danger to the people who are trying to do work as fishermen in the Gulf, because they're beholden to big oil. But if they can attack green energy, they absolutely will pretend to be cute little environmentalists. They'll wave their little green flag and be like, save the environment from the evil wind farms. But they don't give a crap about fracking. They don't give a They don't give a frack about fracking. They don't give a damn about oil and whatever harms those two forms of energy do. They don't care about cutting off mountaintops for coal. They don't care about dumping coal byproducts into drinking water areas. What was it? Was it the CEO of Nestle that said we don't have a right to drinking water? Like, these people are hypocrites. They would be hypocrites of the week, but again, power.
It is what it is.
I pay so much for that darn power every month for them to lose power 7 times in a day. It's ridiculous. Your K is mid-sing on your e-board. Funny. Then how were you able to type K? We caught you. It's not hard to spell clear. Clear doesn't have the letter K in it. Boom, boom. She was caught telling lies in her interview. Are you also going to make it a point to point out every single time that Donald Trump tells lies when he's interviewed? You would wear out every other key on your keyboard at that point. I did not know Louisiana lost power today. We had storms roll through. I live in a very horrible section of town when it comes to power infrastructure, and it's been better. It had been better than what it used to be. It used to be we would get a wind, like a breeze, like nature would go, and all of a sudden we'd lose power. Like, we had times where there were hurricanes or tropical storms coming in, and we lost power before the storm even got here. That's how bad it used to be in this area. And it had gotten better for a bit, but a few weeks ago it happened, and now it's happened again. I'm like, I hope this isn't just this isn't a hint of what's going to happen in the future, because it's frustrating, because you have to keep an eye on your clock, keep an eye on what time the power goes off, and then the power goes back on, because at some point you got to toss your food. and it sucks. Adlo, Vice President Harris tells so many lies. Is the E broken on your keyboard too, Adlo? But Donald Trump has the best lies. Nobody has better lies than Donald Trump. He's the best liar of all time. Nobody has bigger lies. It's a huge lie. Aldo's friend got busted today. Aldo's jealous he didn't get any of that $10 million from RT. Exactly. Yes, John, we need to get off of fossil fuels. The sooner the better. The governor of Louisiana was on Jeff Carrero's show the other day, and they replayed the interview on Tuesday. And he doesn't like solar energy because it takes away from farmland. What? What are you talking about? BP in the YA, just CA banning all gas-powered tools. What? I don't understand what you're talking about. My phone thinks he's a cheap store, like Aldi. Aldi's nuts coming into the chat room. It's hard, Dan. I'm on a PC. I mean, I used to actually have a broken keyboard with my PC. Like, all the keys popped off, but I knew where the keys were, so all I had to do was put my fingers on where the keys were, and I could type that way, and there was no issue with pressing where the keys press down or pressing the keys themselves. Same thing. I felt like I was on Star Trek because it felt more high tech, even though it was a broken keyboard. Electric cannot do the John's gas can. I'm not sure. I have my concerns about, if I was evacuating from a hurricane and I had to have an electric vehicle, and I had an electric vehicle that was not like a hybrid, I would be concerned about evacuating because it might take longer and then you might lose power and that would suck. But hybrid, that's why I would probably have a hybrid if I had some sort of vehicle, which is one of the alternative types of cars that California was talking about making sure that you can have. So some people would have hybrid, some people might have full-on electric, which is weird because Donald Trump and Elon Musk are such buddies, and Donald Trump is talking about wanting to eliminate the requirements to have electric vehicles and this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, his big buddy Elon Musk loves electric vehicles. He makes ugly ones. The ugly trucks, the Cybertrucks. Terrible looking vehicles. But for some reason, Trump and Musk are buddy. I don't know how that works out, how you square that circle. Probably because at the end of the day, Donald Trump's not going to ban it. He's probably going to try and push and help Elon Musk sell more. You'll probably see Donald Trump, if Donald Trump wins, which we can't allow happen, but if Donald Trump wins, I'm sure the government's going to buy a whole crap ton of Cybertrucks. They'll probably do that. A crap ton of Cybertrucks just to pay back Elon Musk for all the help that he's done. That is a prediction. Actually, it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. Let's see. First week 45, he signed an executive order allowing his disgusting blubbery coal miner donor to dump coal ash into a West Virginia river, and then that guy declared bankruptcy. Yep. When I worked second shift, those gas trimmers drove me nuts. 1940? What? What about 1940? Your parents were killed in 1940? Were they killed in a concentration camp? Did they fall off the guard tower? By the Russians. Well, if your parents were killed by the Russians, why the hell do you want the candidate to win who's supported by the Russians? Doesn't make any sense at all, right? If you don't think that if the Russians killed your parents, why are you going to be voting for the person who'll be a stooge for the Russians? So, let's see, but Elon owns Twitter, but Russia paid for it. So Elon is better than Trump then when it comes to getting other people to pay for things. Elon's like, I'm going to buy Twitter and make other people pay for it. And he did. And then Trump's like, I want to build a wall and make Mexico pay for it. And they didn't. More promises not kept by Donald Trump. Adlo, I am Jewish. Well, you know, so am I. Not all of us have good sight when it comes to whatever. I'm very disappointed that nobody got my joke, or that nobody reacted to my joke. I am disappointed that nobody reacted. I thought my joke was funny. In the camps, they were killed. Right. They fell out the guard towers. Sorry. Repeating the joke just to get people to understand the joke that I made. Let's see. There's a Twitch comment I missed. I thought Kamala should have brought on John Cornyn as a way to unite the right and left. He has worked across the aisle to pass bills, and he might have helped her turn Texas blue. And you never know, it might still happen. But who knows? I mean, the problem with that is it's a double-edged sword. Was if you take on Cornyn and you work with him, that might scare away some of the other people that you want. Like one video I responded to on TikTok yesterday, early this morning or whenever it was, who's complaining about the fact that Vice President Harris said that she might have a Republican in her cabinet because she likes a variety of ideas. I mean, President Obama kept on some of Bush's people because some of the people that Bush appointed as president might have actually been doing a good job at what they were doing, shockingly enough. So why get rid of somebody if they're doing a good job simply because they're a different party than you are? That's, maturity in leadership. Unlike Trump, who just wants to kick everybody else out of government who won't pledge fealty to him. I got it, but I'm not Jewish, so you can. But I'm Jewish, so you can laugh at it. Roxanne, I smiled inwardly. Okay, fair enough. And we're still waiting for the lies that Vice President Harris told. And remember, in order for something to be a lie, it has to be something that somebody says that they know is not true, but yet they say it anyway. Like when Donald Trump said that COVID was no worse than the flu and that COVID was not as dangerous as whatever. And then to Woodward, he said that he knew that COVID was worse. He wouldn't wish it on his worst enemy, but he wanted to downplay the threat. That was a lie to the American people. That's a lie. Now, if you say something that you think is correct but is incorrect, that's not a lie. That might be not true, but it's not a lie. As long as you think it's true when you say it, if you legitimately think it's true when you say it, it's not a lie, even though it can be falsely. Liz Cheney is still a Republican, even though she's not a MAGA. Yep, and I don't know if Liz Cheney is going to be in an administration or not, but she did come out and endorse and support Vice President Harris for president today, which is, one of many steps that are needed to get, I don't know how much Liz Cheney brings to the table who are already not at the table, because there are plenty of Republicans who are like the Republicans for Harris or the Republicans who just are against Trump. Republicans against Trump or Republicans for Harris. Those people probably didn't need Liz Cheney to come along and say, hey, I'm also going to endorse her. I'm going to also endorse Vice President Harris for president. I don't know how much more she would bring, but, maybe it'll help. The more the merrier, right? Of course, there are people who are going to, the awkward extremist leftists, the ones that side with Hamas, who are going to argue that Liz Cheney making that endorsement just proves their point, which is just silly. Like Trump is a great businessman because that's an obvious lie. Although I have talked about this before. I have talked about the idea of Trump being people will talk about Donald Trump being a bad business person. And by talking about him being a bad business person, they'll bring up all of his corporate bankruptcies that he's filed. And I think that's a big mistake. I think that's a mistake, and here's why. I don't think we should be saying he was a bad businessman for those bankruptcies. I think we should be pointing out that he's a corrupt businessman for those bankruptcies. Because what Donald Trump did is he used those bankruptcies to help enrich himself. He cashed out a bunch of money from these companies and then had the companies go bankrupt so he wouldn't have to owe the people he owed money to via these companies any additional money. So he abused bankruptcy to enrich himself. That's not him being a, quote, incompetent businessman. That's him being a corrupt and shady businessman. I mean, some of the debts that he got away with not paying, he got away with without even having to declare bankruptcy. I mean, there are stories after stories of people who did work for him, like at his hotels, the casinos, his other places where he hired people to do this business, do this work for him. And then after they were done, he would be like, you know what? I don't want to pay this amount that I agreed to, so I'm going to pay you less. And then if you want the money, you'll have to sue me. And then, of course, you sue him. You have to pay an attorney to sue him, so it ends up costing you more money than if you would just accepted the deal, even if you would have taken it a loss. And the bizarre thing is some of these people would still go back and do business with Trump. I mean, those people are just flat-out idiots. But point of the matter is, when we're talking about Trump and his bankruptcies, we need to be talking about how he was using bankruptcies in a corrupt way, not how he was inept in filing those bankruptcies, because I think that is the bigger hit. And I think that's more close to the truth than him just being a, quote, bad business person. Of course, I'm sure he is a bad business person, but his use of bankruptcy was not him being a bad business person. It was him being a corrupt business person. So, of course, Trump is a Russian asset. Trump is a Russian asset because that's who they want. When they said in their paper that Merrick Garland read today, I think it was today or recently, in front of a hearing about the Russian interference or trying to interfere in this election, there's documents that they have in writing where Russia was like, we are paying these people because we want to make sure that our preferred candidate wins. And who are the people that they paid? Conservatives. Do you think that they paid conservative candidates to help Vice President Harris win? No. So clearly they're paying Republican shills, Republican creators, Republican content creators, etc. They're paying them money to spit out videos talking about how great Donald Trump is or what have you, or to say anything that they might need to make sure that the population is more likely to vote for Donald Trump than they are for Vice President Harris. So, if you want a Russian stooge, vote for Trump. I don't want a Russian stooge, do you? I don't. And the other thing I don't get with is the claim or the actuality that there are people who are in the unions who are supporting Trump. That makes no sense. If you're labor, why on earth, especially if you're in a union or if you have a family member that's a union, or if you even support the idea of unions, how you could be in that number and still support Donald Trump is beyond me. It doesn't make any sense to support Donald Trump if you're a union member, or if your family a union member, or if you support unions and labor in general. I mean, Donald Trump literally had in his interview with Elon Musk said specifically, gave Elon Musk praise about Musk and trying to bust up any attempt for labor to organize into a union in Musk's plants for like Tesla or whatever. Donald Trump praised that. When Donald Trump, he campaigned on bringing steel back for the workers, and he didn't want to bring steel back for the workers. He wanted to bring steel back for the people that own the steel companies. And all these people who worked in labor bought the bill of goods he was selling, believed Donald Trump would bring back all this work, and they did. And there was work brought back, but they didn't get the benefit of it because they didn't see any increased pay. These people were union workers who had made deals with these companies, say, okay, we'll continue to do the work in the short term because we want to make sure that we have the jobs so that when steel comes back and we start producing again, that we're going to reap the benefits. And what did Donald Trump advocate for? Nothing. He didn't do anything about these union workers, and union workers were like, well, why are we left holding the bag? Because Donald Trump's not pro-labor, will never be pro-labor. He's not pro-you. You know, he'll throw out these little, like, oh, well, maybe tipped employees shouldn't get their tips taxed or whatever. We should just make a universal basic income to make sure that people not only have enough money to survive, and that might, alleviate any taxes that one might pay on your tips. But regardless of that, it just blows my, again, it just drives me nuts. I'll lose my train of thought. It just drives me nuts that people in labor would ever support a Republican, let alone Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a capitalist. Donald Trump with a big C. And you next Tuesday. He's a huge capitalist. Huge. And he will never side with labor. Not once. And if you believe for 1 second that he would, it's like Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football. If you are a labor person and you vote for Donald Trump, if you voted for him in the past and you vote for him again, or if you just think of voting for him in the first time, just remember Lucy and the football. Donald Trump's Lucy in this scenario. The football is, of course, all the benefits that you think that you might get that Donald Trump is going to promise you when, if he becomes president. And then you're Charlie Brown thinking that you'll get to kick that football finally. And nope, pulls it out from under you yet again. Over and over and over again. Insanity is defined as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, guess what? If you're labor and you vote for Donald Trump, that is the epitome of insanity. See, how the hell do you bankrupt a casino? Very carefully. I mean, you can bankrupt any business if you're funneling money off the top to line your pockets, and then it can't operate and it can't pay back its debts. That's the thing, is that you shouldn't be able to bankrupt a casino. A casino, the house always has the advantage. The only way you bankrupt a casino is if you're trying to funnel money off the top and make it so that the casino no longer can pay its debts. And that's when it has to go bankrupt. But don't believe for a second that Donald Trump didn't gain money from that whole thing. Him declaring bankruptcy just helped him more. It meant that that's more money that he could funnel, he could skim off the top into his pockets, because that's money that's not being paid out to the people who are his creditors. Surrounded monkey. So criminal, not even a businessman. Well, it should be criminal, but it's not. That's the unfortunate thing. These things are allowed via the bankruptcy code. These things are allowed via all of the other business rules that we have. They're allowed to do these things. They're allowed to manipulate the system because they write the rules. Donald Trump even said that in his debate with Hillary Clinton. He even admitted it, and people are still voting for him. He admitted to manipulating the rules because the rich people make the rules. So of course he's going to manipulate the rules. Of course he's going to abuse the rules as long as it's legal. I mean, it shouldn't be legal for him to not pay his creditors. It shouldn't be legal for him to ignore contracts. But he's able to do it because what are they going to do? How are they going to get the money back otherwise? Other than a civil lawsuit. And well, civil lawsuit costs them money. So are they going to get him on fraud? Are they going to really push the issue? Who knows? But Adlo, I do not think insulting a person's family contributes to this chat room at all. I mean, no, we shouldn't be insulting people's family, but, I can make a joke from time to time. Subcontractors committed suicide because Trump bankrupted them. I'm not surprised. Josh Asshat or Asshat. Trump is both. He is a Russian asshat and he's a Russian asshat. I think it's hilarious how Trump is now saying I'm wrong. It would have been to put Hillary in jail because she was a presidential candidate after all, and it wouldn't be good for the country. Is he actually saying that? Is there a link of him actually saying those things? Please email me that, liberaldanradio@gmail.com. I want to see that, because Mr. Lock Her Up now saying that's rich. Wait, Adlaw, you think Russia is worried about Donald Trump getting reelected? You think Russia paid conservative bloggers to put out information, and those conservative bloggers are going to help Vice President Harris win? That's what you think? That doesn't make any sense. Jeff Banks sent me 2 seminars. One was how to buy suits. They basically told how to get free clothes. Nice. Scrolled too far. I had that at the post office. What did you have at the post office? I don't know. My dead dog voted for Mexico in the last election. It's okay. He was a Yorkshire Terrier, but classed as cute but stupid. Red Hat Truckers Union want their drugs back. Keep them awake for 3,000 miles. I mean, right. I mean, Joe Biden is doing a good job preventing the fentanyl from making it across the border. Joe Biden's numbers are much higher of actually stopping drugs than Donald Trump's ever were. And I fully believe that Donald Trump wasn't trying to stop those because then he was afraid that people would say, well, if I stop the people from getting, if I stop the people from crossing the border with fentanyl, then we have to report the amount of stops of fentanyl, which makes it look like more fentanyl's coming into the country, so I want to downplay the threat, just like he did with COVID. So I've, again, no reason for me to believe, for anybody to believe, that Donald Trump's numbers on drugs or drug stoppages are anywhere accurate. I'm sure there were probably tons of drugs that made it into the country under the Trump administration. He had his sights on different people. He wanted the low-hanging fruits of the dreamers and their families. So, see, Republicans have never been friends of union. Vance was laughing about laying off strikers. Well, yeah, but for some reason there are people in unions who will still vote for Donald Trump for whatever dumb reason. If you're in a labor union and you're voting Trump, you're literally cutting off your nose to spite your face. Yeah, Donald Trump is a scab. Sean Fain, yeah, pretty much. So Jeff saw an interview with a college guy that said going to vote for Trump because he has to grab the off-brand in grocery store. What? College kids do? I mean, when I was in college, I'm sure I grabbed the off-brand of stuff in grocery stores, but that was because I was a college kid. Not because I was, any less liberal than I am. Actually, I probably was less liberal than I am now, simply because of the fact that I've become more, I've moved more to the left as I've aged. Because as I've aged, I've realized just how bad conservatism is for everybody and why we need to stop it. So he was using the casino to funnel inheritance from his father by buying chips but not using them or losing them. It's a crime, but for sure, but hard to prove. Yep. Doesn't he take advantage of anti-SLAPP laws suing people too? I'm sure he does. To Jeff Curry, I've rarely bought name brands for decades. Oh, the horror those kids go through. Yeah, I mean, that's just hyper privilege at that point. I don't want to have to buy, I want to buy Jolly Green Giant, not, the off-brand dollar store version of the green beans. Crazy. Trump said that in the Mark Levin interview. He said what was it? Let's scroll back and find Tim's other thing, because I completely forgot what I was asking Tim to tell me where it was from, because I'll look for it. Where'd you go? Where'd you go, Tim's post? See, I can see Kinzinger get a position for defense or foreign affairs. That's possible. I think maybe in defense, not. I think foreign affairs. I think Secretary of State might go to Buttigieg. Oh, okay. He said that Hillary shouldn't go to jail, and he said it in a Mark Levin interview. Okay, I'll have to look that up after the show, and maybe we'll talk about that Monday. Because holy crap! Or maybe we'll use it for Hypocrite of the Week, or maybe that'll make him Hypocrite of the Year at this point. Who knows? See, I actually had a maggot say to me that Dems only create jobs to collect taxes. What? Oh no. there are jobs created, and you have to pay taxes on the income. Boo-hoo. Wait, who's talking about chocolate chip cookies? I make the best chocolate chip cookies. Y'all need to try my chocolate chip cookies. I had to drink cheap beer in college. It was pure hell. Again, Adlo, how do I know that there were less crossings during the Trump administration? How do I know? Why would I trust that? Why would I believe Donald Trump, any number coming out of the Trump administration? Again, because he specifically said that he wanted to downplay the threat of COVID. He said that to Woodward. In the Tulsa rally, he said that he wanted to cut back on testing. He wanted to slow down or stop testing for COVID, because if you have more testing, you have more cases, which is just mind-numbingly stupid. Again, we've talked about why that's mind-numbingly stupid, but it's also dishonest, because he didn't want people to know the real numbers. We have it on record that this former president wanted to keep the real numbers hidden. He wanted the people of America to be kept in the dark of the real numbers when it came to COVID. Why would I believe he would be honest about the numbers of immigration? Why would I believe that there would be less crossings under Trump when he was focusing on dreamers instead of actual people crossing the border? So I did not put Hillary Clinton in jail because it would have looked so bad for the U.S. I wanted to bring the country together. No, that's funny if he actually said that, because he didn't put Hillary Clinton in jail because the crime that she was accused of was just a misdemeanor at that point, which is funny because he made it a felony. He had the law passed. He signed the law to make mishandling of classified documents a felony, and then he mishandled a crap ton of classified documents. So he's even more of a dummy. Let's see, let's ask P01135809's boyfriend if he got special visa immigrant status or if he hired to work in Mar-a-Lago on his work visa. Nice. I hope Kamala picks a new AG. Maybe. See, the liberals are just wrong about many things, just like the protests in favor of Gaza. First of all, the people you're complaining about are not, quote, liberals. They're probably way further to the left than liberals, but if you're so far on the right that you can't notice the difference between, a centrist Democrat like Biden and a socialist, then you're probably not going to notice the difference between liberals and leftists either. I mean, I don't tend to nitpick the difference because I'm liberal Dan, but I self-describe as a leftist, but many leftists will get very insulted if you call them a liberal. Like, I'm not a liberal. I'm a leftist. Don't dare call me a liberal. Liberals are horrible people. So, but the people who are supporting, they're not supporting, it's not that they're supporting Gaza, that's the issue. It's that they're supporting Hamas, which is the issue. Everybody should be supporting the people of Gaza, because there are many innocents in the people of Gaza. Many of them who have died over, A, Hamas's terrorist acts, and B, Netanyahu's response to the terrorist acts, which has been terrible. So, John, Woodward was an ass for holding on to that COVID info. Never understood that. Absolutely, he was. He was probably saving it for his book, right? I think those interviews came out when he pushed his book out, so that's why he was saving it. Although he could have just let that little bit slip and let everybody know that Trump is a lying fool about the threat that COVID is. He knew in December 2019 it was the killer virus. Yeah, I mean, it was known, it was around much longer from early before, which is why people laughed at me early on when I said I thought I had COVID in January 2020. And they were like, they only had 13 cases. I'm like, they only had 13 known cases. I'm sure there was plenty of cases that weren't diagnosed as COVID that were COVID, just like mine. So, yep, exactly, Roxanne. He was writing a book, and he only let the audio out when the book was released. Because he does do all the scenes on the border. Well, if a scene is on the border, you can't see him either. Sorry. Because doctors and hospitals are not informed. Again, because he wanted to downplay the threat. Which is, directly why we say...
It is what it is.
because that was Donald Trump again talking about the deaths. He was asked about the death toll from COVID, and instead of saying something, nice or heartfelt, or, I mean, that's very bold of me assuming that Donald Trump has a heart, but instead of him saying something that would have been helpful and compassionate, it is what it is. It's just like when Donald Trump said, what was it, after the Iowa shooting in January? Donald Trump said that we just needed to get over it. Well, that's Donald Trump. He doesn't want to talk about and handle the hard issues. He wants us to get over them. Which brings us to the shooting today in Georgia. Woke up today, was doing some work, and then I turned on the news finally in between power outages. And lo and behold, we had another school shooting today. 14-year-old brings a gun to school, shoots, I think last time I saw the counts was 4 dead and nine additional more wounded. And the text messages coming from these students were just heart-wrenching. Like, I'm sorry I wasn't as good of a daughter as I could have been. I wish I would have been better. I love you. A boy messaging his parents about, I think there's a school shooting, making sure that he says, I love you before anything else happens. This is why I'm opposed to the stupid cell phone bans in schools that they're trying to pass to keep cell phones out of the hands of kids during the day. Now, should kids be playing on their cell phones in the middle of class? Abso-freaking-lutely not. They should absolutely be paying attention, and if they misuse their phones, fine, take them away and let the parents come pick it up and explain it. But I've flat out told my kids, no, you are to bring these phones, and I don't care what the rules are. I want you to have the phones on you at all times, because if anything like this BS happens at your school, I want you to make sure to be able to call the police. I want you to be able to call us. I want you to be able to reach out and let us know what's going on so that, we can make sure that things are getting done. Because I frankly don't trust the administration of the school that my youngest kid is at to do anything right. He gets a good education there, but the administration is just mind-numbingly just, sometimes. It's very frustrating to deal with that administration. Like, he only had 5 minutes to eat lunch today. That's how bad things are at this point. Like, you shouldn't force kids to eat lunch in 5 minutes. It doesn't make any sense. It's terrible. But point is that we need gun control. We need to have common sense gun reform in this country. We need to have universal background checks, which is what should be the starting off point. We need universal background checks. We need to be able to make sure that every transfer of gun from one person to another, regardless if it's a corporate person or an individual person, has a paper trail. Because the responsibility should be on the gun owners to make sure that they keep track of their weapons and they keep track of who they sell the weapons to. And if for some reason you get your weapon stolen, report that as well, so that people know that, hey, your gun was stolen. But there's currently loopholes in background checks where I could sell you a gun, and if it's a private sale, I don't have to do any sort of due diligence to make sure that you are a person who is legally able to own and possess a firearm. And that doesn't make any sense. We have a amalgamation of laws across this country that I've always said for a very long time now that I don't believe in gun control at the local level. I don't believe that states should be passing a patchwork of laws so that it's, in this jurisdiction, it's one thing. It's this jurisdiction, it's another thing. The well-regulated militia part of the Second Amendment should make it clear that it's the purpose of the federal government to regulate the militia, and therefore should be not a power that the states get. That being said, the federal government needs to then do its responsibility and regulate the militia well. One example of how these state laws differences are problematic is there was a former military person, somebody who was a veteran, somebody who I guess was from a different state but came to the city of New York, and he thought he was doing the responsible thing by saying, "Hey, here's my gun. It's in his case. I want to check it in so that I don't have it on me while I'm walking around. but I'm just checking it because I'm doing the responsible thing. And then he almost got in trouble for doing the responsible thing by trying to check the gun because he technically was in violation of New York's gun laws. Why should New York's and New Jersey's and Louisiana's and Texans, why should all those laws be different? Why should it be confusing to people who do want to legally own a weapon to own that weapon? Why should it be confusing? Shouldn't it be the same rule from state to state to state, especially if it's a well-regulated militia that needs to be regulated by, and as such, it should be the federal government doing it? There should be one blanket regulation for all, including things like, universal background checks. But you bring those things up, and all of a sudden, you get people in some Facebook post or whatever about what happened today. Because I said I'm just waiting here for the MAGA people to come and be like, it's too soon. It's too soon to talk about gun control. It's too soon after the shooting. All right, well then when? When? Fine, we won't talk about gun control from this shooting. We'll talk about gun control for all the other shootings that happened before today. And we'll leave this one alone in the conversation of gun control. But let's talk about all the other ones. Because it's never going to be... there's never going to be enough time between this shooting and the next shooting, because there's going to be another one until we do something about it. There's never going to be enough time that passes where conservatives are like, are not going to be like, it's too soon to talk about it. But some guy in his one Facebook group is like, well, people can kill people with knives or spoons or hammers. I'm like, yeah, I'm much less concerned about somebody wielding a spoon in a school than I am somebody wielding a gun. Like you could throw a hammer from 25 feet away and seriously injure somebody. I'm like, I would rather take my chances with a thrown hammer than with a gun being shot at me. Because with a thrown hammer, if you have one thrown hammer and you miss, there goes your hammer. You can't do it again. If you miss with one of the rounds in your chamber, you have more rounds to shoot, most likely. You might have additional clips. You might have, the clip might hold 10. It might hold more. Even if you have a revolver that only holds 6. You still have 6 shots as opposed to one thrown hammer. So yeah, I'll take my chances with the thrown hammer versus the gun. Thank you very much. So Chris, control is the trigger word, reform, safety laws, just saying. I mean, whatever. I mean, whatever. The people we do need to have some control as to who gets the guns. I.e., there are people who can't, and we should make sure that they don't. And make it harder for them to not. Make no loopholes. If people are going to bitch, whine, and cry about the word control, then they're not serious enough to be having the conversation to begin with, in my idea. Yeah, John, they always say the Dems want to take the guns, yet Clinton and Obama and Biden haven't. We just want sensible gun legislation. Exactly. I don't want people who are law-abiding citizens to not be able to own a gun for themselves if they want to hunt, or if they want to, be it if they want to hunt, or if they want to even just have it for self-protection. I mean, even Joe Biden was like, if you need a gun for self-protection, get yourself a shotgun. You could use a shotgun for self-protection. It'll blast somebody to bits, depending on what, I guess, shot you use. But still, Joe Biden was flat out clear that he believes that you should be able to defend yourself when it comes to owning a gun, owning weapons and stuff like that. We just want common sense regulations like, universal background checks. But Adla, we're not trying to take people's guns. Nobody's trying to take people's guns, except for maybe the people who shouldn't be having them in the first place. Like, if you commit a gun crime, you should forfeit your right to own a gun. Can we agree on that? Why is it bad to make sure that everybody who purchases a gun is somebody who is legally capable of owning one? Y'all are never able to answer that. Y'all make some slippery slope argument. Y'all make some argument about, this is going to lead to this, to that, and this, to that, and you make a bunch of illogical guesses of what might happen, when in reality, that slippery slope is, again, just one of many logical fallacies that are used by conservatives to obfuscate the issues and make it so that we can't have a reasonable conversation about the solution to the problem, which is gun violence in this country. Wait, did somebody say Trump is courageous? I want communism? No, I do not want communism. Oh, Adlo says Trump restored the Capitol in Israel. No other president had the courage to do this. Really? You want to go there? Donald Trump is supposed to be the art of the deal guy. Donald Trump didn't restore the capital in Israel to Jerusalem. The capital of Israel is Jerusalem. It's just that most countries had their embassies in Tel Aviv because they didn't want to, rattle the cage. But Trump decided that he was going to move the embassy to Jerusalem, but in doing so, didn't get anything back for it. He should have leveraged that into getting some, some conciliation on the part of the Israeli government. But he didn't. He gave that away for free. So much for the art of the deal guy. The art of the deal guy made a terrible deal again. This time he just gave it away for free. Not even for free. It cost us what, however many $1 billion to build the building? Maybe less. I don't know if it was billion or not, but it was a pretty penny to build a new building in Jerusalem. But he did it. Sure, he did it, but he didn't do so to be courageous. He did so because he wanted to piss off some Palestinians. He wanted to piss off, the Arab nations around Israel. And he wanted to cozy up to Benjamin Netanyahu. What's up, Alton Gillespie? Good to see you. Let's see. Jeff, I don't know. I've been some very violent games of spoons. Broke the table in half one night. I mean, if you did watch, what was it? The Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie. Alan Rickman or whatever? He did say, he's going to carve his innards out with a spoon, and then his friend's like, or his partner's like, why a spoon? And he's like, it's dull, you idiot, it'll hurt more. Ichabod Deer made the same point I did. Why is it bad that we don't want people to have machine guns? And of course the stupid Supreme Court ruling that basically allowed bump stocks, because even though it turned a semi-automatic rifle into an automatic rifle de facto, because it still was required to be started off with a manual moving, and then the bumping of the stock, they didn't consider it to be the same thing as a machine gun. They threw away a common sense legislation, and that was even a Trump thing. And that was one thing that Trump tried to do, is eliminate the bump stocks, and the Supreme Court's like, nope, it's ridiculous. The Bible has a whole lot of guns in it. What? Yeah, the Second Amendment also doesn't explicitly say firearms. It just says arms. Lev Leviev is the money behind the Jerusalem move. Lev Bibi, I don't want to call him Bibi, but Netanyahu, Jared Kushner, DGT, all connected. Yep. Let them get pissed off. Well, then you're not a good negotiator. Then you're not somebody who's good at making making deals. Trump was supposed to be the art of the deal guy, but he failed at this deal. He failed at many other deals. He's not a deal person. He makes terrible deals, just like he made a terrible deal with Russia and OPEC when it came to oil prices. Hey, Benny, what's going on? Good to see you. Bye, Adlo. Thank you for the $5, Benny. Appreciate you. Oh, we got a caller on the line. Sorry, I was looking up at the screen in the chats and not seeing that there's a caller. I think this might be our good friend, Brother Michael, from overseas. Am I right? Hello?
Nah, this is Naj. Nah,
Oh,
this
it's
is Naj.
Naj
What's
from
going on?
Atlanta. How's it going, man? How's it going? Good to hear from you.
Hey, same, man. I'm cooling, man. Sitting here listening to you, and yeah, you're hitting all the notes, man. But one thing, he did get something for that deal for the embassy. He got money from the Adelson family for himself. Never
Yeah.
forget, it's
Well,
not
someone
about the
did
country; it's about him.
exactly. Someone did bring that. I mean, that's one of the things that when people talk about, how things couldn't be worse for the Gazans, because of whatever it is that people think that Biden is supporting by what's going on. Well, I think that it could absolutely be worse. I think the people that say it couldn't be worse for the Gazans, for the Palestinians under Trump, lack imagination. I fully see Donald Trump just giving Netanyahu all the weapons he wants so that he can flatten and raise Gaza and the West Bank, so that Donald Trump and Kushner and everybody can turn it into more resorts in Israel. That's what I think would happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Agreed.
I have no proof of that other than I just know how Donald Trump thinks and acts and behaves, and I fully believe that he would absolutely want Netanyahu to do that so he could get new Trump Gaza, Trump Mediterranean, Trump Med, Trump West Bank, Trump whatever.
The man is calling Chuck Schumer a Palestinian as a slur. So yeah, I think your logic makes sense that we can expect that type of behavior from him. If he was to get in office again. And again, when you're talking to some of the Trump supporters, some of these things that kind of just wash over their heads or they don't really want to wrestle with. One of the things people really have to deal with is if that guy gets back in office and decides that any case that came up before him, he's going to figure out a way to squash it. At that point, your legal system becomes a problem for you, not only domestically, but also internationally, because then they should start thinking, wait a minute, should we invest there as heavily as we thought we did? Because their court system can clearly be not only bought, but coerced through power and told what to do. And then that's when you're really talking about financial calamities, when you talk about a nation like that. I always use the reference of, do you want to buy a government bond from Venezuela? Probably not. But you probably want one from the United States. But if the United States loses credibility when it comes to courts and laws and just the idea of enforcement, that's a huge chunk of cabbage that kind of rolls away from you. But to your previous point, because of course we need something done with guns in America, but this revival of this whole states' rights arguments that come up in everything that's difficult, people start talking about states' rights, and it's a way of kind of just stalling out the conversation so they don't have to have it, and a way of putting us in a situation where we're just on the back foot when it comes to the nations that we're actually competing against, because they don't go through the rigmarole of nonsense like this. The idea of like we're in the 1800s and the Kentucky dollar is an important thing. Like the states' rights stuff was based on the idea of what we were at the time. And as we became, what we became, especially in this global marketplace we live in today, most of that stuff, man, you got to throw that stuff out the window. It's an old relic. You have to govern efficiently, and you're going to need national policy for big ticket items. The idea that you're going to send those back to the states and cobble together some kind of legal system, it's like, dude, we are in 2024. Those days are gone, man. The idea of small government in today's age, that's gone too. So unless you want to become a lesser power or a lesser nation, embracing these, states' rights and small government stuff, that stuff's not real. It sounds good on drive time when you were listening to Limbaugh in the 90s and whoever podcast you updated to afterwards. But in reality, like, no, man, that horse has left the barn. They got to leave that alone. I have no idea why it's so hard for Americans to see each other as citizens instead of this conscripted territory like thinking that we have still in this day, man. I think other countries think it's weird too, but I have no idea why somebody in Louisiana can't see somebody in Oregon as their countrymen, as
Right.
opposed to seeing them as a competing faction.
Well, I think a lot of the people, especially the conservatives, especially in the southern states, when they say they love America, they probably are really talking about the Confederate States of America, because that's what they want. That's what they want to have happen. Because, you know, whenever people, I know you brought it up as there's no such thing as states' rights, but you still use the word. Whenever conservatives bring up states' rights, I always say that whole idea is a myth. States don't have rights. People have rights. States have powers, as stated by the 10th Amendment. And they have a hard time when you actually try and show them the Constitution, because, you know, I cite it constantly in the show. I'll even put it up on my YouTube video. I have the 9th Amendment right here, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And I'll also have the 10th Amendment on here. The power is not delegated to the states by the Constitution nor prohibited to it by the states or reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So that's where the whole myth of states' rights comes from, because you know, under the Constitution we have authority that is given to the federal government, and it's not given to the federal government, it goes to the states. That being said, the people who use this term states' rights want to be originalists and only look at the Constitution and the first 10 amendments and ignore the things like the 14th Amendment and the 13th Amendment and every other amendment that has come since that has not been repealed, simply because they want to be able to justify basically their bigotry and codify their bigotry into the laws of the state and codify their sexism in the laws of the state too, which is why we see things like all of these horrible abortion laws. Now, you are in Atlanta, right? So how far away from you are from the shooting that took place today?
Maybe 2 hours. It wasn't like Atlanta proper, but you know how it is down here, man. It's not a place that's sparsely populated like rural Georgia. There's a lot of people who moved out, you know, that way over the past 10 years or so. So, you know, this was a shock to everybody. Just, you know, when it happened, everybody saw it on the ticker. But the shock wasn't the same as previous years. I think we've gotten desensitized to the point to where, you know, people read the story, you know, of course they'll be a little saddened and they want to see a better outcome than the worst nightmare. But it didn't stop the day like it used to a long time ago. People kind of continued with their work day and, you know, kind of kept checking up on the story to see what happened. But, yeah, there was a full out, you know, all hands on deck. There were officers from all over the state who drove to that location. And, you know, GBI and everybody else was trying to make sure they got it under control. But, man, to see that, like the autistic kid whose picture is on social media, like to see that young kid, like, man, this would be a heartbreaking memorialized event in most nations because they're not so used to it.
Right. But we've gotten so desensitized to it. You're right.
Next week's news cycle. Yeah.
And maybe that's why the conservatives say that it's too soon to talk about it, because they're hoping that at some point, if they say it's too soon to talk about it, it just happens and happens and happens, and then we get desensitized to it, so then we no longer want to do anything about it, which would be unfortunate. But and it's weird. Like, I never actually heard of or knew of the GBI until I watched the show Will Trent. Have you ever seen that on ABC? The show Will Trent? Yeah, so I'm sitting there and I was like, I saw the GBI vest. I was like, oh, where's Will Trent? You know, during the thing, just because I never knew that states had their own bureaus of investigation, I guess, until that point. I mean, I don't know if there's an LBI or if it's named something different here in Louisiana, but, you know, I did know about the GBI simply because I watched a TV show. But, you know, as Trump says,
but it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald.
That guy. but yeah, just thinking about, you know, that topic as an issue, and it's like, you go back to Columbine, you go to, you know, any of these other famous ones that we know that happened, and the void that happens after they tell us is too emotional to talk about. The void that gets filled right now is by podcasters and YouTube personas and Facebook groups, and that void will be filled by people who do the Sam Hyde hoax and who present, you know, weird stories and just distort everything, and before you know it, people don't know what to believe because most people are just working their job and they're checking the news periodically. And you give them enough incentive, before you know it, all sentiment is gone because the story has been covered in a way through their echo chamber to where they don't have to feel anything for it or think about guns as something that has to be discussed. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one, man. This is tough because if people were okay with Sandy Hook, I think that's how we get to the point to where we are today, to where we saw with Sandy Hook, all of the people making up all the stories, lying on the people, the crisis actor stuff people came up with that got Alex Jones sued, like all of that stuff. And that's become mainstream now, man. Like those are mainstream normalized views in the right. Because like I said, I'm in Georgia, so I hear a lot of different opinions.
Right. And I mean, Georgia's going to be a big one, this year, just as it was last time as well, because, we have a bunch of people who, were able to get out and get the vote out for Biden. Hopefully that'll be the same for Vice President Harris as well. I mean, what are you seeing on the ground? Do you think that there are people who are there who, there are always people. I mean, Republicans often vote against their best interests, but are there people who are not Republicans that you're seeing kind of wavering on whether or not they should vote for Harris or not, or are you seeing more people who are like, I'm tired of this guy. I just want to have President Harris. Like, what are you seeing on the ground in Atlanta, where you are?
Yeah. So Atlanta is, solid royal blue, you might as well say. So Atlanta will never be a problem in this situation. But it's rural Georgia, down south Georgia, that is typically always voted red. But the issue is, some of these people are working class folks whose tax tables were changed during the Trump regime to where they were used to getting a refund, and now they actually owe money multiple years in a row, and they're dealing with the financial strain of that. Some of those people are to the point of not necessarily voting for Harris because they like her, but voting for her because they don't like him anymore. Right. And then you got to remember the farming issue. His tariff that caused all of those farmers to lose so much money and have to depend on, the government to bail them out. Those people haven't forgotten either. So I think he's losing a little bit at the margins there, but it will be solidly red, as far as down south of Georgia, the more rural areas. But he has caused some reason for some people not to show up on election day for him down there. So turnout is going to be the most important thing. And again, to me, this election is about white women, like, period. The choice that more white women make is going to determine this election. With Hillary, the best data I've seen, I think from Pew, they had it 47-45 for Trump in 2016.
Right.
And 2020, I think it was a little more narrow towards Biden. But, I think the white population of women whose turnout may be historic when you look at all the young women who are, making these TikToks, campaign ads, and everything else, that could be something, man. But, yeah, Georgia is still in play. Well, Dan, let me ask you this. What do you think of the people saying Florida could possibly be in play? Is that dim wish casting, or is that something that's possible?
I am not holding my breath on Florida. I have brought up once or twice in the show where Florida is a possibility, but only because of kind of like a reverse coattails type situation where you have the abortion. I'm surprised they actually got abortion to be on the ballot on the same day as election day, because a lot of times these conservatives will try and push those issues to different election days so that you don't get the turnout. But with abortion rights being on the ballot and allowing the people to vote on that on the presidential election day, it could bring out more people, and it could highlight the fact that the reason we're having to vote on this, or they're having to vote on this issue in Florida on election day, is because of Donald Trump. And maybe that is enough to tip the scales and flip Florida this time. Will it happen? I'm not to the point where I'm going to say yes, it's going to happen. I think it's a possibility. I just don't know how much of a probability it is. I don't think it happens if Georgia doesn't stay blue, just because. But I mean, I could be wrong about that too. But there's so much ground that has been lost in Florida, for whatever reason. I mean, you had the situation where they've just fight voting rights over and over and over again. Like the Florida citizens in 2016 voted to reinstate the rights of felons to vote once they left prison, and then the legislature was like, well, we don't like this as Republicans, so what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that you have to pay back all your fines first before you can do that, which is completely against what the citizens voted for, because they're like, no, we want them to have their voting rights back once they leave prison. Which, if for some reason, if in the next week or two Donald Trump actually goes to prison or gets sentenced to prison for his New York crime, it then makes him voting in this upcoming election illegal, which then brings up was his vote legally cast or not when he cast his early ballot. But that being said, I don't think it's outside the realm of possibilities that Florida could flip into being blue for this particular election because of that one issue. I'm just not holding my breath on it. And I think that I think it might be premature. I don't know at this point for them to try and get and mobilize and try and win Florida when there are clearly other states that have to be won, like Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, etc. I think Trump just left New Hampshire because even though New Hampshire is supposedly sometimes a swing state, I think their internal polling said that it's not winnable. So I think they just fled from New Hampshire and are no longer there. And if it's too soon to start putting funds into Florida because you have to shore up those other swing states, it might be. It's probably not something that's going to happen. I think it's more likely that we flip North Carolina because of Mark Robertson or whatever the bigot's name is, the Holocaust denier.
Yeah.
That guy,
Yeah.
I think, makes it so that it's possible that you'll get. I mean, you have a guy who's like denying the Holocaust, who's running up against a Jewish person, and Donald Trump is supporting and embracing this guy. I think North Carolina is a much more reasonable flip than Florida is at this point. But who knows? Maybe things will go all our way. We'll get all of the needed votes out, and maybe we'll flip even more states that are possible. I will say one thing. I don't think Louisiana is in play at all. I'll guarantee that. There's no way. Like, I know my votes.
Some of the things they passed down there, yeah, I definitely believe you. And I feel really sad for a dude like Gary Chambers, who seemed like a really good dude, and somehow he got boxed out of everything. And we're seeing Kennedy and some of those people down there do, I mean, just egregious stuff, man.
Well, I mean, the head of the Democratic Party at the time, when he was trying to run, was somebody who was opposed to black people running statewide because she didn't believe a black person could win statewide. She also supported a Republican against the Democratic governor at the time, even though the Democratic governor was very conservative. She supported a Republican against the Democratic governor in the first election, and then somehow was able to convince the party itself to support her for being the party chair. Katie Bernhardt did her best to try and kill the Democratic Party from the inside, and it was terrible. I'm glad she's no longer there and no longer in charge of the party. Glad we didn't see her. I'm glad we didn't have to see her as on TV for the convention. But it's just, I mean, she did her damnedest. I was trying to have Chambers on. I think he was really busy mid-election. We did have Devontae Lewis on, who won his public service commissioner seat against a strong incumbent, completely proving Katie Bernhardt wrong. And he was somebody who was, again, one of those two people who they changed the rules on, because what had happened was you had they had changed the rules to make it harder for Gary Chambers to get the endorsement of the Democratic Party. Gary Chambers, being as smart as he is, used those new rules and was able to seal up the endorsement. And so Katie Bernhardt was like, no, now we're going to change the rules again mid-committee meeting and then endorse everybody who's running instead of just endorsing one person that's running. And it was a whole bunch of BS. So.
That is a lot, man. Well,
Yeah.
I got to get out your way because I know you got a show to do, and appreciate you doing this. You're doing good work, man. We need new media because legacy media is once again dropping the ball. They're not holding Trump's feet to the fire. They're treating him with kid gloves and acting like Kamala has to answer every policy question with extended review and a note from the Congressional Budget Office that is feasible. So the legacy media is doing a bad job. But I got one question before I go, man.
Sure.
If we have our druthers, our best case scenario, and she does actually win, that would be 2 out of 3 elections that Donald Trump has lost, and MAGA would be dead. Do you think we go back to the old days of conservatives say 3 and Democrats say 4, and somehow they meet in the middle, and we have bipartisanship on a national level, and we get out of this whole idea of if the other party wins the election, we can't give them any wins. We have to make sure they don't do anything, and it stops everybody from going. Like, do you think we get out of that cycle if he loses this election and the Republicans of old kind of take their party back?
See, I think that if the Democrats are able to maintain and keep and gain more control, I think they will work with the common sense, reasonable ones. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if you would ask me if there are common sense, reasonable Republicans, I might have not said yes. But now I'm like, wow, I sure miss those people because these people are crazy. I don't know beyond deprogramming how there are a certain amount of people in this country that I think at this point they're either lost or they need to come to the realization that Donald Trump duped them and then do a kind of just a silent, okay, well, let's return back into the fold. But I'm not holding my breath on that large chunk of people being able to actually, come back and be normal when they've embraced the crazy for so long. One thing I'd ask you, you made the comment about the legacy media. Did you hear the bit that I talked about earlier when I was talking about how, like, on MSNBC, they were talking about how the Manosphere and how the Manosphere is somehow new and not been around for like forever and ever?
Oh no, they said it was new.
Yeah,
No,
Alex Wagner's
show.
show. If you get to watch Alex Wagner's replay, go watch that, and then go when the show comes. Go rewind the show or start the show from the beginning and catch my bit on the Manosphere because. Yeah, MSNBC was completely jumping the shark at that point. And that's one of the reasons why I'm just like, we need new people. Again, as you said, we need new media, new people who are going to be out there who are going to actually understand the problems that we're facing and not magically think that the Manosphere is somehow this new thing that just popped up in the last 2 years. So yeah, it's crazy. Go watch that and then go and watch the beginning of the show when I start, maybe half an hour in, maybe when I started talking about that because I was talking a whole bunch of personal stuff first. But anyway, again, it's good hearing from you. I wish you'd call in more often.
And can I give a quick rec?
Go right ahead.
Give a quick rec if you can. Everybody, check out Clay Kane and his book, The Grift. Really important book. I think a lot of people need to read it right now because a lot of people, like he just talked about with the Manosphere and some of these other, I would almost call them PSYOP movements that we've seen grow online. In order to break people from these things, we're going to have to give them the information and be patient with them. But, yeah, it's going to take a long time, man. You're right. Thanks for the time, Dan, and I'll continue to listen, brother.
Thank you so much. Good hearing from you. Call back more regularly. It'd be great to have you on more often. So good to talk to you.
Will do.
All right, that was friend Naj from Georgia. This might be our friend from overseas. Maybe this will be Brother Michael. Is that you?
Of course, Liberal Dan. How are you, my friend?
Good to see you.
It's an honor to talk to you more often as well, too, because your show is the one that can save American disunity that we are in. And if people honestly be fair, be balanced, listen to your show, we'd wake up much more easier and smell the coffee, and hopefully we will not have any kind of civil disorder after the elections or before elections, or, because Donald Trump, unfortunately, he is so angry all the time.
Right.
It looks like he has a bipolar. He's a bipolar. And so as a result, this is going to create a problem for him because people can see his character. If he's like that now, what would happen when he become the chief of the everybody? You know?
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest danger because, that is threatening this great republic today. And if we cannot see yet that this man is just is a clown, this man is puppets of the New World Order, and he has been in the WEF 2018 and 2024 on Davos, and he had when journalists asked him, "How do you want to make America great again?" He just passed away, and he did not respond to journalists. So you can see this man is just hungry for power like a Hitler. And if they bring the Hitler in the United States, shame on all of us. That's bottom line. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I agree with you, and I might want to take yours if maybe I might want to capture that soundbite where it says like my show could help save everything. I mean that would be a great thing if I could use that. That would be great. Just to isolate that audio, just to be able to say just that this is what my listeners say. So I might have to copy that. But no, yeah, absolutely. We need to make sure that we defeat Donald Trump, especially because it's clear that his mental facilities are, they want to talk about Sleepy Joe or whatever, and a lot of what they were criticizing with Joe Biden was simply his stutter, and that was it. But we want to talk about cognitive decline. There's plenty of examples that we can see from Trump from 2016 all the way through now, where he clearly is suffering from cognitive decline. He can't. It is not somebody that we want to have in the office. As I've said in my intro to every show, he is unhinged. He is an unhinged individual, and that is not somebody you want to give the nuclear codes to. You can't give somebody with the nuclear codes if they are unhinged, especially as bad as Donald Trump is.
Absolutely, indeed. And he keeps saying that Kamala, for example, is this, is that, but he always lies. There was a clip in the Daily Mail that I think they made a movie about before when he was younger, and an actor that is playing instead of him. And when they show him in his limousine, and the lawyer, somebody called him about give an offer to build the hotel for him, etc. And kind of they were quarreling with each other right there. They say the guy, his attorney saying, just say lie, just let us build it up, and it's okay. Then we will find the money later on. Don't worry about it. So he lies. You can see everything, and he repeats itself. In an conference. Any of his speeches in the his people with his people. He just repeats the same sentences over and over. I think he's trying to brainwash people.
Oh,
people
yeah.
wake up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't understand why people can still take him seriously, especially when he does whenever he says the things like, I have the best words, nobody has better words, I have the best this, nobody has better this, I have the best numbers, nobody has better, like what his just, I mean, it's a meme. He's made himself into a meme, and that's so easily mocked. Like, why would you keep doing that and saying those things unless you really just had nothing new to say? Like, he believes that if he says my shit's gold, then people are his listeners, his followers, his members of MAGA are going to be like, oh, he really shits gold. He really poops out gold. Like, that's how bad his many of his supporters are, and that's how he thinks he can do. I mean, he'll tell you the sky is purple, and everybody who supports like, oh, well, maybe it is. The emperor has no clothes, right? I mean, the fiction becomes
Absolutely.
reality.
Yes, I mean, by I will make this country great. And remember, Hitler, when he was assassinated unsuccessfully, he came out and put his hands up like that. I make Germany great again. I make Germany great again. But what happened? Germany, yes, they went and took over so many countries and etc. At the end result, it was caffeine for every citizen of Germany. I mean, he brought Germany to its knees. So that was his greatness. That was the way he keeps saying, I make this country great. I make this country great. So, it's very weird that he's using the same phrase from Hitler. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, I've been saying that since 2016. I've been saying that Donald Trump has been literally using Hitler's playbook since 2016. I mean, whenever Donald Trump says fake news or talks about the lying media, Adolf Hitler talked about the Lügenpresse or the lying press. And the reason that Hitler did it back then is because he wanted to basically, before the media could report about all the things he was doing, he wanted to tell the citizens of Germany, he wanted to say, look, you can't trust what they say about me because they're just a bunch of liars. So then once they start saying things about him, then Hitler could be like, see, they're lying about me. I told you that they would be lying about me. They're lying about me. That's the exact same thing Donald Trump has done. Donald Trump has called everything fake news, fake news, fake news. So that when everybody starts reporting the factual facts about Donald Trump, he could be like, see, they're lying about me. That's Hitler's that is Hitler's playbook. I mean, Hitler vilified an entire religion, Judaism in his case, to make sure that he could, as the scapegoat as to all of Germany's problems, just have to deal with the Jewish people, according to Hitler. But then Donald Trump did it with the Muslims. Donald Trump wanted to implement a total and complete ban of Muslims from entering the country. That's what he campaigned on. He may not have implemented that when he first got in, but when somebody tells you who they are, you believe them. When Donald Trump says he wanted to ban all Muslims from entering the country, I'm not going to think that he was lying about that. He was telling us what his real ideas were. He was scapegoating the entirety of the Muslim religion, all of Islam, just so he could, use them as the big bad enemy. That and the Mexicans is who he would be, who he targeted.
Exactly, my friend. But we have to remember, Islam, they have bad elements. Like who was that guy? Timothy McVeigh. He was a bad element of the American society. And then he went in FBI building in Oklahoma City and did that horrible thing. But you see, Islam, yes, many Muslims right now are in the U.S. Army, Navy, and etc. As well too, whether they're Iranian, whether they're Palestinian, whether they are from any other countries in the Middle East. But at the end, these people, we need all these people. If we keep saying that all these Muslims are bad, that's the lie. I mean, I am from Iran. Yes, I understand what happened to my ex-country. It was very bad. that only 10% of the population brought Khomeini and etc. And now they enslave 100% of Iranian for 46 years. But the question is we need all these people. We have found the blueprint of these people, that what they want to do in future to bring Islamic State in United States, etc. But not all Muslims are. They want to. They have bad elements within them, and we have just to identify the bad elements and monitor them and etc. But the rest are with us. So we don't want peace. The Muslims, because then they will say, then it gets more worse. We need, because if they have some intelligence, then they will share with our authorities and etc. So to prevention something may happen, etc. But if we keep saying, like Donald Trump, we are Muslims of this, Muslims, blah, 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 then end result will not be good for all of us.
And that is a way to radicalize more people who are members of Islam, is to have our leader of our country basically saying that all of them are horrible people, which I know is not true. But even his partially implemented ban, it actually, I think, prevented some American citizens from getting back because they were visiting relatives and they were trying to get back, and guess what? They couldn't get back. So he ended up hurting people who were not just, Muslims who were here legally. He hurt citizens of this country simply because they want. If you look at the comparison that I did on the border from Monday's show between, Agenda 47 and Project 2025, you'll see that they want to vet people in such a way. They want to make sure that you don't have disloyal elements. And according to Trump, on the Trump side of Agenda 47, he clearly talks about how he doesn't want people who are anti-Christian, which to me basically is trying to say, well, why just anti-Christian? Because he's trying to pander to the idea that we're a quote Christian nation when we were never founded on such. So anyway, it's the every day that Donald Trump speaks and every day that he talks about the stuff that he talks about, it just becomes more and more clear that we have to defeat him at the ballot box, because if we let him get back into power, I mean, we're doomed. We're lost. It's allowing him to have as much power as he would have under that new Supreme Court ruling that basically gave him unlimited immunity simply because there's no way to subpoena any communications within the executive branch because all of them are considered privileged regardless about what they're about. We're screwed. We can't let anybody who would use that power badly back into that office again. And Donald Trump is somebody who would absolutely use that power for nefarious purposes, for selfish purposes, and not for the reasons that, the presidential power should be used for, which is to the betterment of this nation as a whole. So I do have a bunch of stuff in the chat. That I needed to catch up with. Do you have any other last points before we move on?
No, just, Israeli situation is also another thing to watch for this week, coming, and also a preemptive strike of the Israelis on Ayatollahs. It will come 4 to 6 weeks range because Israel is fed up with everything, because they use their proxies against Israel, and the head of a snake is in Tehran, and we have to get rid of the snake in order to see peace, tranquility, and love and harmony, peace back between Iran and Israel. Because we Iranians, we have a DNA of Jews, DNA of Jewish people, and DNA of Jewish people, they have a DNA of Iranian people. So we have been 2,700 years friendship with each other, and we want to keep that relationship going for millions of years to come. Thank you very much.
I absolutely 100% agree with that sentiment, and one of the reasons I like having you on the show is because you talk common sense and brotherhood, and you're an Iranian, I'm somebody who's raised Jewish. If we can get along well, hopefully we can set the example for everyone else to get around to. Thank you so much, my friend. Look forward to hearing you again next week. Have a good one.
Sure. You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Brother Michael from across the pond, thank you so much again for calling in. Let's see. I did forget to do something. I think I've forgotten to do something maybe within a month or so, where I have not used my Prime subscription to whatchamacallit. So there we go. My nerdydan.com account just used my free Amazon Prime membership to subscribe to Liberal Dan Radio for free. If you have an Amazon Prime subscription and you have a Twitch account, you can hook the two together. Doesn't cost you anything, and you can use it to support the show and to get a free subscription on Twitch. And if you have a subscription on Twitch, if you ever do watch on Twitch, you don't get ads, whereas people without subscriptions do get the ads. So there you go. That's just another example of how to support the show using your free Amazon Prime account to support the show on Twitch, twitch.tv/Liberal Dan Radio. So thank you, Joe. I was going to ask you to share the link to Hang Your Hate. I did see Jeff was talking about it. You beat me to asking you to do it, so appreciate you. That's why, me and the Mod Squad, we're right there. They sometimes do what I want them to do before I even can say anything about it. So appreciate you, Jolie, for sharing that. I do want to support Hang Your Hate. I want to support all the shows. I want to support Benny's show. I want to support Benny and Diane's show. I want to support all the other shows that are out there fighting the good fight, and also relatives of the people who are also helping me fight the good fight as well. So anyway, let's scroll back through the chat. I'm guessing Adlo did get banned again. I do give P-Dubs. If P-Dubs is still here, thank you so much, P-Dubs, for coming along with the show. When watching, yes, I did get my power back, fortunately, and it's been on for the last maybe 3.5 hours or so. So maybe I'll get to sleep well tonight with air conditioning and my CPAP machine. So that's good. I do want to remind people that if somebody is getting on your nerves in the chat, please feel free to block them yourselves. I know sometimes it's weird to be able to see a chat and not see half the conversation that's going on, but just as a reminder, unless people get too abusive, too abrasive, and again, I give that ability to determine that. Unless I see it and want to block them immediately, the Mod Squad have the ability to handle that as they see fit. But even trolls, as Hal says, trolls help the algorithms as well. So the more trolls post in here, as long as they're not getting too abrasive and too ridiculous, it helps other people see the show, helps the visibility of the show, helps more people. I mean, last time I checked the views, it was at like 80 something. Now we're up to 100. So maybe the constant conversation or whatever from Adlo is what helped that up. But of course, if you say too much, you're going to get yeeted, as the kids say today. Let's see. Robin, didn't Florida try and rearrange the wording on the ballot measure? I think they did, but I don't think they were successful in doing so. Could be wrong on that. I'd have to recheck on that. Chris, children who are living, breathing humans, not a clump of cells that cannot often survive. Mostly, when it comes to that, I think this study or the numbers that I cite usually when talking about that is that 30% of all created embryos will not get attached to the uterine wall naturally. Under normal circumstances, there's a 30% discardation rate when it comes to embryos. So if you put a born infant in a situation where they had a 30% chance of death, you'd be brought up on child neglect, child endangerment charges, and would be rightly sent to prison and have your children taken away from you. So if you So if you really think that embryos are that much of deserving of protection as a born infant, then you shouldn't even be having sex at all, because if you create an embryo, that's a 30% chance of that embryo just getting yeeted right off the bat, and that's highly irresponsible of you, and shame on you for creating embryos in such a way if you think that they're worthy of the same protections as infants. Stop breeding then. It's for the babies. See, Robin, if Don is a felon, does this vote count? I don't know how that would work. It's an interesting, I really would love to, I mean, he is a felon. And he was able to vote. And the reason he was able to cast a ballot in Florida is because if you're a Florida resident who gets convicted of a felony in another state, they treat you as the other state treats you as it pertains to if you've lost your right to vote or not. So, for example, in New York State, you don't lose your right to cast a ballot unless you're actually in prison. So Donald Trump wouldn't lose his ability to vote in Florida unless he became a prisoner in New York. But he's already cast his early ballot. So I don't know how that works. I don't know if they could go in and say, oh, this is Trump's vote, it needs to be yeeted, or if he just gets around it because he was able to get, vote before he went into prison, even though the election would come around and perhaps he would be in prison at the time of the election. As I said in the beginning of the show, he could be in prison on election day and still be elected president of these United States. That's the absurd thing about all this. And it could potentially create a constitutional crisis, because if you're in prison in New York and then you have to take the oath of office, what do you do? If he's getting Secret Service protection, does he get Secret Service protection in prison? That's probably a lot of the questions that the judge is going to have to take into consideration. One of the reasons why I'm not holding my breath on him getting any prison time for this crime, even though it was 34 counts. Surrender Monkey, Adlohim, you're not going to get paid by Tim Pool today. You're in far too much trouble. Hilarious. That's funny. See. Why do you refer to him as Aldo? His name is Adlo. I don't know. Who was I referring to him as Aldo, or was I mispronouncing it, or was I saying were other people typing Aldo instead of Adlo? It's probably people refer to him as Aldo because it's close to Aldi's, like the store. But Chris, if it were not for the ability to get help evacuating an unviable clump of cells, I would be dead and would have never had my third child. Who's evil? The Republicans. And that's one of the things I said in my rant on the last show, I believe, that I posted when I had my little impromptu rant on abortion rights. And I had to make it into little shorts because, yeah, these people are sick if they would let people die. They're not pro-life. They are not pro-life if you would let people die. Simple as that. They're not pro-life because they let people die from gun shooting, from mass murders from guns as well. You can't be pro-life if you're going to sit by and do nothing as kids get shot up in schools. That's not pro-life. Excuse my hiccup. Let's see. Surrender Monkey, I don't care actually how his name is spelled. A rough approximation is enough. He's only roughly considered a man by me. Nice. Supposedly, Adlo was some people at some points. Adlo said that they were a woman, but I don't know. Let's see, FDJ6T. Is it 6T or 6V? Because what was it that she said at the convention? So, Roxanne, it's getting more fun to bother the Russian bot. LOL. Those people don't even know who our VP was until Kamala was she became nominee for president. Let's see. Jolie talking to Son tonight told him they should go the old-timey photo place, wear current clothes in the old setting. He said wear old clothes and take pics at a Best Buy. Either way, I think would be funny. Jolie used to work next to an old-time photo place. They gave me photos for free. I have tons of silly old-time photos. I want to see them. That'd be cool. Let's see. Hey, it's Hugger Greeter TK. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us, Teresa. P-Dubs going to bed. Listen to the rest of the show on your phone. Thank you, P-Dubs, again for stopping by. Appreciate you as always. Lots of hellos between TK and everyone else. Are we hearing a German gentleman? No, he's Iranian. One of my more recent regular callers. We have him and Khalil, who are most regular, and then we also have Naj over from Atlanta, who calls in from time to time, which is, always nice to hear from him, because I like the compliments he gives me. Above and beyond the fact that he always gives solid points and makes good, decent points and adds to what's going on in the show, unlike some people in the chat like Adlo, who apparently has been banned. But, whatever. As Trump says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. But yeah, Trump did a town hall thing with Hannity tonight. He kept saying Biden instead of Harris. Another example as to why Donald Trump is dementia Don, why he can't, if he can't keep his candidate straight, then how is he going to keep world leaders straight? How is he going to be able to handle the pressures of the presidency, especially years after he's been president the first time? And he could hardly handle those pressures back then as well. He was a horrible one. Apparently Joe thinks we screwed up and should not have blocked that guy. Bad move. I don't know why it would be a bad move for him to have been blocked, but I support my mods in their decision making as they've decided to do what actions they felt like they needed to do. If somebody can't be a civil member in the conversation, then so be it. Let's see. Roxanne, within a line checking out a guy behind me, saw the back. You lost it all in the grip of faith. He said he was an atheist too. Nice. Donald Trump said fake news when he was pandering to Forbes. I said fake news to everything. I mean, he says fake news all the time. I mean, everything is fake news. And if everything is fake news, nothing is fake news, right? Yeah, he started calling the 2020 election rigged before we even voted. I mean, he started that, in June or July? He started those probably because he knew that he was going to lose. One of my conspiracy theories is simply that he, the reason he made the terrible deal with Russia and OPEC about oil production and having them reduce production by millions of barrels per day of oil was not just to save the American oil producers, because that would have been a short-term thing, but he probably knew that he was going to lose, and as such, he knew that he wanted to stick it to the next president, which would be President Biden. So what better way to do it than by making a situation so bad for the American consumer that it's going to hit them in their wallet? Then he probably went ahead and, if he was smart, which is a big stretch, he would have then invested in oil and then made money hand over fist with that investment. So, but apparently his supporters are invested in Truth Social and are now doing terribly. So, let's see. Somebody said, who is Joe? My guess, if I had to guess anybody who is Joe, my guess it would be Gibson, but who knows? Let's see. He keeps saying he's ahead in the polls by a lot. He's losing in the polls, gearing up for stolen action revolution. Yeah, I mean, his supporters are at this point. I mean, he doesn't have to say anything more. His supporters are never going to believe that an election was fair or just or properly done unless he wins. If he doesn't win, they're going to claim it's faked again. They're going to claim it was stolen. They're going to claim it was rigged. They're going to blame some BS. There was some person on some show, and I wanted to look this up, and I kind of forget the name of the website, so I couldn't really do it. I'll have to look it up later. I'm sure it's on Jeff's show page from earlier in the week. But This person was saying that they found evidence of certain things in the code in the voting machines that would allow for ballots to be entered. Now, there was nothing in the discussion of what was going on about this that actually said that this code was actually used maliciously. It's very well possible that they had code in the code to be able to handle like debugging and testing that was never used in maybe those functions were never used on election day, right? So in order to prove that this actually was a problem, they would have to prove it was actually used on election day, and they probably have not done that. They probably had just said, oh, well, this code exists, and therefore we must assume that it exists only for nefarious reasons and not for reasonable reasons like, running test elections or helping debug the code. Hell, I worked someplace where I had my phone number was in the debugging of the code because they wanted to have it so that we could test text. It was sending automated text messages to people about their court appearances or whatever, wherever they were going, and the code in the debugging code that was, I think, only used whenever we were testing. It was included my cell phone number, so occasionally I still get cell phone texts because they never removed my number from that code after I left that company as an independent contractor. So I had to reach out to the owner and was like, hey, could you fix that? I'm tired of getting these text messages. But still, debugging code exists, and it doesn't necessarily have to exist for nefarious reasons. But, they're gonna take any molehill and make a huge mountain out of it. They're gonna turn the Grand Canyon into Everest if they can. So, Tim is asking if it was Wes. I don't think it was Wes. No. Neither does Aaron. Let's see. Thank you, Aaron, for sharing the link to the Patreon. Jeff, did I get the shout out video the Sun did after a show? I did not. Did you email it to me? liberaldanradio@gmail.com. Definitely want to see it. If definitely want to see it. Robin, I'm an artist currently exhibiting a piece titled "The Pillar of Democracy." People are digging it. Again, also send me, if you can, send me a link, liberaldanradio@gmail.com. I'd like to check it out. I'll share it on my socials as well. I am subscribed to, I do subscribe to Hang Your Hate, though, so I do get notifications when videos do pop out, so. Let's see. Jolie, the whole chat should block him, and then he would think he's the only one here. That's hilarious. I'm in New York State. That is correct. Yes, he can cast an early ballot because he fears prison. Yes. Chris, I can only speak from personal experience. What popped out of my second miscarriage was a clump of cells, no baby. Yeah, but unfortunately, they don't embrace science. They don't. That's why they pass these laws. A, because they want control, and B, they don't understand science. They don't understand that if the water has broken early and it's leaking into your body or whatever, and the fetus is going to die because of a miscarriage, but it hasn't quite yet died yet, allowing the pregnancy to continue is harmful for the patient and needs to be yeeted. So. Let's see. Roxanne, I hate to ask, but were you a naughty girl in high school? Ooh, this sounds like it's heading towards Liberal Dan After Dark, which we've not created yet. Chris, sorry, Robin, you and I know men should not be making these decisions for us. That's true. Nobody should be making these decisions for you. That's where I disagree. No woman should be forcing you to make that decision either. The decision that needs to be made should be between you and the doctor performing your care. And if you need to have an abortion to save your life, be it in the 1st month or the 9th month or 8th month or whatever, you should be able to do so because you should be able to save your life. Period. End of story. And then because nobody is getting an abortion after 21 weeks, after 22 weeks, except for people whose lives are in danger, or whose health is in danger, or where the fetus is just not viable anymore and there's nothing that can be done. And it's cruelty to force somebody to, let's say if it's a case where the parent might not pass away, might not be harmed by the pregnancy, but if you force the doomed fetus the patient to gestate till term just to give birth to an infant who's going to die shortly after birth because, they're missing part of their skull or whatever, that's just utter cruelty as well on the part of conservatives. And they'll be like, oh, what are the odds? Well, I don't care what the odds are. It's cruel. If it's cruel if it happens to one person, it's cruel if it happens to 11 billion people. Cruelty is cruelty, and it shouldn't be done. Shouldn't be sanctioned by the state. But,
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Oh, not banned, just timed out for the rest of the show because he called the whole chat a name. Well, that's fine. I wouldn't have been mad at you if you banned either, but, it happens. And again, y'all have the authority to moderate as y'all see fit, especially when I'm staring at the camera and can't pay full attention to what's going on in the chat. See, Chris, Robin, second child was C-section, 2 miscarriage, third child was a C-section. I'm done. That's almost what happened with us, with my wife. My wife, she had, well, we call him hairy tumor. Because my wife ended up having a dermoid tumor where one of the eggs, it fertilizes itself, and you get teeth cells and hair cells and all these other cells, but it's not a viable life form whatsoever. But it will still have those cells, and she had to get one of her ovaries removed because of that. And it was funny because I was working at the hospital when she had the procedure done, and I was working in the pathology, and I'm going through the reports. I'm like, oh, I have her report right here, and I could read all about her little hairy tumor, and so we named it Hairy Tumor, and we called it our aborted love child, and we even made a small parody, love child, never meant to be, love child, his name was Harry, love child. So we joked about that. But it was clearly not anything that was going to be viable at all. But stupid conservatives who pass these laws would probably ban treatment of that too, because they don't understand science. But then we had our oldest child, and then between him and Henry, between Thomas and Henry, there were 2 miscarriages that took place. So we know full well, and both the other deliveries were C-sections. And it was weird because Thomas was nowhere near coming out. He was just kind of just chilling, just relaxing, just la la la. And then they just pulled him out. There you go. Henry was the entire time just like, boom, 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 let me out. And it was day and night. The pregnancies were day and night. So, Aaron, who, me, never. LOL. Let's see. Robin, I had a C-section 2 big babies, Pitocin induced, the worst experience, cervix open 6 centimeters and stopped after 18 hours. Oof. That's one thing that happened because Thomas was taken about a week early because they were worried about preeclampsia. Cassie didn't know what it was like to have contractions. So she was having some pains when Henry was being born, and all of a sudden she goes in and she's like, well, I'm having these pains. What's going on? She's like, oh, those are contractions. He was coming today regardless. So he was ready to go. Yes, sir, no monkey. Oh, there is definitely a test input code. Geez, some people are stupid, though. Yeah, they're very stupid. Randy Rose was warning that if the Republicans were going to shut down the government and insist of proof of citizenship for registration necessary, register now before they get a concession. Yes. Yeah, Jeff Curry, liberaldanradio@gmail.com is the email address. Yes, thank you, Aaron. Trump on Hannity tonight explained that he knew nuclear because his uncle taught at MIT. What? Yes, that's how learning works. Your uncle teaches something, so you know it. Thanks, Hannity. Yeah, Surrender Monkey, Liberal Dan After Dark. It's 5:20 a.m. here. It's nearly light here in the UK. Well, I mean, it would be after dark where I am. I mean, it's after dark somewhere, right? At any time, it's always after dark somewhere. Like it's 5 o'clock somewhere. But yeah, eventually one day I'll make that channel and we'll have it, and we'll have it be for more adult type topics, not necessarily like perverted type things. Sorry, Jeff. But just to be able to have frank conversations that don't put this channel at risk. So, see, Robin will make a new vid this Friday, Gallery 9 of September. That's cool. What date can Trump sell all of his stock? His sycophants need to be told to dump it before he does. I think it's soon. I think it's right before the election. I think it was October. When can Donald Trump sell Truth Social stock? It was 6 months, I think, that he had to hold on to the stocks beforehand. Let's see. Truth Social hits all-time low as CEO sells his crashing stock. Price share of former Donald Trump's Truth Social meme stock has plummeted to a new low after several key executives started offloading their holdings. Around midday Tuesday, shares dropped below 18, setting a new record low since the company began trading after merging with a blank check acquisition company in March. Minutes after trading open on Wednesday, it hit new lows again. Crash didn't come as much of a surprise. It wouldn't be surprising if Trump himself pulls the rug on investors within just weeks. The 6-month lockup period determined by the SEC is almost over, opening the door for the former president to sell his own shares. That could be make or break moment for Truth Social's parent company, Trump Media. Trump owes 114 million shares, or roughly 60% of the company's outstanding stocks. So if he cashes out, it would be yet another major vote of no confidence. The current sell-off is also likely accelerated by a number of executives, including Devin Nunes and his cow, Andrew Northwall, and CFO and treasurer Juhan Phillip, selling millions of dollars worth of company shares. The company has burned through many millions of dollars in cash, despite only making a measly $4.1 million in all of 2023. In the last quarter alone, it reported a net loss of $16.4 million. Wow. As what was say, 7 days ago, according to CNN, Trump can soon tap his $2 billion Truth Social fortune. But it won't be easy. For months, former President Donald Trump has been sitting on a social media fortune he couldn't touch. That'll change soon. The lockup period prohibiting Trump from selling or even borrowing against his $2.3 billion stake in Truth Social owner Trump Media and Technology Group is scheduled to expire by September 25th, according to filing. So I said by October, I think, but September 25th is pretty darn close. In theory, it gives Trump access to the pot of money that he could use to pay sky-high legal fees or even fund his presidential campaign. In reality, Trump faces huge obstacles that would make it very challenging to sell a large chunk of Trump Media unless he doesn't mind crashing the stock. It would be all but impossible for Trump to liquidate his whole stake or even a third of it without completely tanking stock price, says Michael Aholgi, whatever his name is, an associate professor of law at New York University School of Law who is specialized in corporate governance. The share price is already tanking. Trump Media stumbled another 4% Wednesday, trading below 20 for the first time since the merger. Trump Media has lost a staggering 70% of its value since late March, a sell-off that has accelerated as Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee, has gained in the polls. The sell-off has put a serious dent in Trump's net worth. As recently as May 9th, Trump's dominant stake of 114.75 million shares was valued at $6.2 billion. Trump couldn't touch that. As typical deals like this, certain shareholders are subject to a lockup period. According to filings, that lockup period is scheduled to expire on September 25th. It could come even earlier. The lockup would lift if Trump Media share price equals or exceeds $12 for any 20 trading days within a 30-day trading period starting on August 22nd. As long as the stock doesn't keep plunging, this would translate the restrictions lifting as soon as September 20th. But all the people are whatever, and they say the stock is grossly overvalued. But yeah, So it was originally worth $6 billion to him, and now it's worth $2 billion, and it's probably going to be worth even less over the next few weeks as more rats jump ship. So yes, it would be definitely behoove people to sell their stocks in Trump Social, or Truth Social, or DJT Media, or whatever it is they want to call it, if they haven't done so already. But there are people who have already lost a bunch of money on Truth Social as well. So, oh well, it is what it is. Let's see, Chris, there was a woman in Texas who was having wanted twins. One twin thrived while the other didn't. The one who didn't threatened the mom and the other twin. She had to go to Colorado. Yep, I mean, a lot of people having to go to Colorado and other states these days because can't do it in Texas because you can't save your life in Texas, or else old Ken Paxton will come after your ass, come after the hospitals and try and sue them into submission, right? So, Joe, I have been watching the entire show and the chat is filled with liars. You guys called him names and made fun of his tragedy. I mean, there's the problem, Joe. The problem is that when you treat other people badly and not in good faith, people are not going to think that you act in good faith. So, let's tie it back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump was dishonest about COVID. Donald Trump was dishonest about, he wanted to reduce testing so he didn't have cases, right? So why would I believe if he wanted to lie about numbers to make his numbers look better when it came to COVID, why would I not believe that Donald Trump would not fudge the numbers when it came to like immigration, people, border crossings, encounters, etc.? Why would I believe that? Again, boy who cried wolf. If you lie all the time, why would I believe you're magically telling the truth? So if Adlo, who has notoriously been malbehaved in the chats, and has been given a lot of leeway in our chat, if Adlo wants to be taken seriously and have his words be taken seriously, it would help for him to start, or her, whoever Adlo is, to act in a way that would enable him to be taken seriously. But if you don't act in a way, and you don't act in good faith, and you don't act as somebody who should be believed, and you because you can be a conservative in chat and not be a troll. Bringing It Boy or Daily News or whatever is one such example of somebody who I believe acts as a person of good faith who will, who disagrees with us on the issues and will sometimes bring in things that I think are bad points, but I still think acts in good faith. Whereas Adlo, I don't think has ever come to the chat and acted in good faith. So if you're not going to come to the chat and act in good faith, then why are the people in the chat going to believe whatever it is that you say? And then if you make claims like, oh, Vice President Harris is lying about everything, and then don't back up your claims with evidence or proof, then again, why would we believe anything you say about anything? Because you're just saying things to say them. I mean, I've seen Adlo, if I'm recalling this correctly, I might not, so just take it with every grain of salt, whatever. I thought I remember seeing Adlo saying something way back when, early in our first things with Adlo, that did seem kind of anti-Semitic. Maybe I'm confusing Adlo with somebody else, but why would I then believe that he's Jewish or they're Jewish or whatever? I mean, now personally, I didn't go full-on attack mode with Adlo. I did make the guard tower joke, but that is what it is, right? I'm sorry, that's Trump's line.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. It's dark in Joe's Manosphere all day long. There's Bicycle Mike. What's going on? Good to see you. Jeff, Trump is going to sell his millions of shares for $300. That's probably... Like, how do you sell your shares if the company has no money to buy them back from you, right? Worthless stock offers offer nothing. Worth less first offering, yeah. Trump just spews imaginary numbers. Oh no, he has the best numbers. Nobody has better numbers. Trump has the best numbers ever. Believe him. Bigly. His numbers are bigly better than everybody else. RR, what's up with Kamala's fake accents? What are you talking about? Fake accents. This is what I'm going to assume you're talking about. All right? I'm going to assume when you say fake accents, it could be maybe Vice President Harris speaks one way in front of some people and another way in front of other people. And for all of you people who don't know what this is called code switching. Code switching is a phenomenon that takes place, especially amongst people who might speak AAVE, African American Vernacular English, or as what some people refer to as Ebonics. Code switching is done when people are not allowed to be themselves in a corporate or professional setting, and as such, they will change the manner in which they speak in front of certain people, though when they're with other people with whom they're more comfortable with, who they can trust, who they can potentially, have a maybe familiar context with, or just know they have shared experiences, perhaps in those circumstances she might let certain mannerisms go, whereas in other circumstances she might not speak. Is that what you're talking about? Is that what you're talking about with her so-called fake accents? Is it the code switching that you don't understand? Because I'm not going to go into great detail about code switching, and Aaron just brought up code switching, so I'm having a feeling that we're probably on the right train of thought there. I would recommend that you go use your favorite search engine, be it DuckDuckGo, Yahoo, Google, whatever search engine you want to use. Go look up code switching. See what it is. See what's defined as. See why people code switch. Educate yourself on why somebody who is considered black and who is part black and who, might have, been a part of, an all-black school and all-black sorority and, or historically black college university, because there are people, I think some people in the chat too, who have gone to historically black colleges and universities who aren't themselves black, but those people might be more likely to understand the idea of what code switching is and might be able to see it in person. And perhaps if you don't know what code switching is, maybe it's because the people around you who have to code switch have only code switched around you so that in one way and haven't trusted you enough to be able to let loose and be themselves in any other ways. And that's perhaps more of a indictment on you. Maybe, I don't know who you are, but it might be an indictment on you. Maybe it's not. But I would just recommend that if you don't know what code switching is and you want to educate yourself more as to why somebody might speak differently in different settings. Of course, I also speak differently in different settings than some things, but I'm a white guy, so I'm allowed to do that. But black people are mocked or ridiculed for code switching because people think it's dishonest or whatever, when in reality, it's just when you're in different locales, different situations, different, settings, you may, speak differently depending on the people you're around. I remember with an ex-girlfriend when I was around my father, she would make the comments how I was different around him, how I was much more serious, even though we make terrible jokes all the time, but I was much more serious and less fun to be around, I guess, when I was around my dad, because maybe my dad was a little more uptight, so maybe his uptightness rubbed off on me or whatever. I don't know. Or maybe I just didn't feel I could let loose around dad or whatever. I don't know. I didn't necessarily witness it. I just had to believe it when she said that I acted differently because, that's what she said and wasn't going to disbelieve her. So there you go. RR, wouldn't it be great if we were given news that isn't biased? Sure. That's why I ridiculed MSNBC tonight, because it wasn't necessarily an issue of bias, but it was just an issue of them not knowing about things like the Manosphere. I try to be unbiased as possible. I mean, I'm obviously going to have my biases, but when I report and talk about actual news events that take place, I try to be as accurate as possible and not allow my biases to run the day. I do try and report things honestly and report things accurately, because accuracy should have no partisanship to it. Unfortunately, we have a situation where, especially, I've talked about this before, but why conservative media is so dangerous is that conservative media will never correct itself if they report something that's false, because they are too afraid of losing market share. They're too afraid of losing their listeners, their viewers, whoever they are. If their viewers hear them saying, "Oh, we were wrong about saying this about Joe Biden, it was really this, so we apologize for saying this about it. We told a mistruth about Joe Biden," the conservative listeners are just going to be like, "Oh, well, these people are clearly pandering to Biden by telling this about him when we all know that the other thing was true, even though it's not." So they'll stop and they'll go start watching somebody else who are going to pander to their cognitive biases. So. Joe Manchin has a fake accent, maybe. Or maybe he also code switches. You never know. It's possible that people from West Virginia might very well code switch, because they might go from talking like this to talking like this. They might want to be seen as, not having the Appalachian type of accent or what have you. Alton, I speak differently with Canadians or Brits. This is one of the funny things. If I get into a conversation with somebody who's British, I will start adding a British accent to it. Like, I've caught myself doing it. I've caught myself actually forming an accent and picking up the accent as I'm talking to them. It's the weirdest thing. Oh, you're mocking code switching now. Well, if you're mocking are you mocking code switching, or is that not what you're talking about? If you're talking about something else, let us know what you're talking about. But in reality, I have a feeling that you're talking about code switching, and if you're laughing at code switching, it just goes to show that you're not willing to educate yourself about what code switching is and why black people do it. Let's see, let's play accents, let's imaginative, let's insult the unimaginative through creativity. Let's see, I speak... Is asking questions forbidden here on a liberal show? Nobody said you couldn't ask questions there, RR. But I asked you a question in return as to what you were talking about, and then I assumed you were talking about, because you hadn't answered yet, I assumed you were talking about code switching, and now you're mocking code switching. So if you ask a question on the show, I'm going to try and answer it as best as possible. Since you didn't give me any context, I had to try and figure out what context you might be talking about, and if you don't like the answer, then what else can I say? You asked, I answered you asked a vague question without any context. I gave you the answer based off of what I thought you might have been meaning, and you don't like the answer, so there you go. You asked a question, I answered it. Nobody prohibited you from asking a question. How far does censorship go here? This is my channel, and I have two moderators that are wonderful people who will block you or moderate your chat if you do things that are unacceptable. If you act in good faith and have a debate with us, you're more than welcome to come into the chat and have a honest debate with us. But you have to have an honest debate with us. And if you're not going to have an honest debate with us, and if you're just here to troll, then we're going to call trollish behavior out for being trollish. See, I asked one question and the monitor, I don't know where the monitor what monitor came unglued. I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't see anybody coming unglued. Me and Aaron both mentioned code switching, and you didn't give any other examples from what I saw. I mean, maybe it scrolled past me, but I didn't see any examples of what different accents or whatever you were talking about when it comes to Vice President Harris and how she speaks. So I'm only going to assume at this point, I can only assume at this point, that you're talking about any potential code switching that you might be doing. So, and if you're going to mock the idea of code switching, then nothing else I can tell you about it. But if you come into the show asking questions about censorship, sounding exactly like Adlo and like other people are going to basically assume that you're just Adlo in a different name. Rose by any other name would still stink. RR, you have a communications degree. You have acto communications degree. I mean, hey, I guess communications degrees doesn't prevent you from having typos, right? But still, what's called cultural appropriation? Vice President Harris code switching, even though she's black? Nobody said you had to agree. Nobody said you had to. Nobody said you have to agree with us to be in here and involve yourself in conversations with us. We're just saying that some people are saying that if you're going to come in and proverbial guns blazing about censorship from the get-go and ask vague questions that don't give a lot of context and then laugh at the answer that you get, well, I mean, people are going to treat you like you are presenting yourself. If you present yourself as a troll, people are going to treat you like a troll. If you present yourself like a civilized human being who wants to have an honest debate of the issues that you might have a disagreement with us on, then you can present yourself that way, and you'll probably get much less people pushing back on you, at least on trollish issues. They still might disagree with your stances, but you're going to be treated much better. I mean, ask Bringing a Boy, i.e. Daily News, about how I treat conservatives who disagree with me, but still we're able to have conversations about topics without having it be, moderated or what have you. I'm all about having other people on the show with different opinions and having conversations with them. I've had debates with them on the show, either callers or simply just people who might be guests who disagree. There is the Texas bail bonds guy who I've had on twice to talk about the issues of bail bonds. We disagree on pretty much almost everything. But I had him on, and we had a decent conversation. Why? Because I think it's interesting to learn other people's point of view and why they think the things that they do. And he acted respectfully, and I acted respectfully back towards him. And that's how it works. You get what you give. You give respect, you get respect. You give trollish behavior, don't be surprised when people give you trollish behavior back in kind. Now, I have instructed everybody to always attack the message and not the messenger, to make your comments germane to this comments being made. But if you're not making comments about issues that we just simply disagree with, and instead you're acting like, oh, why am I being censored 2 seconds after you come into the chat when you haven't been censored yet, we're going to raise our eyebrows and we're going to say, you know what, we don't believe you. So if you want to stay in the chat and join us and have conversations with us and on the issues and debate, you're more than welcome here. I'm happy to have you. Bring some friends along. We'll have honest debates about the issues. I'm not going to shut you down just because I disagree with your point of view. I may have a problem with your point of view. I may take serious issue with some of your policy stances, and I might criticize those policy stances. Of course, that's not censorship. That's just me stating my opinion on my show that I use my own time, effort, and money for to create and produce. So if you want to come in and have nice conversations about political subjects and whatever, you want to know more about why liberals, leftists, progressives think the way they do, and you want to ask questions about that, sure, I have no problem answering those things. But you have to act in good faith. If you act in good faith, we will return the good faith back in kind. And if there are people who attack you for the positions that you state, and it's simply just a position, like, let's assume if you happen to be against abortion and you want to state that in the chat and we want to debate that, there are people who are going to attack your position. They're going to have problems with your position because, most of the people who watch the podcast, are probably people who believe that abortion should be a right, that people should have the right to body autonomy, and that the government shouldn't be stepping in and be overreaching with the regulations set on said procedure. And if you are having an honest conversation about like that topic or any other topic that might be your topic du jour that you want to talk about in that particular day, and people who are regular listeners who agree with me on most things, if they start calling you names instead of attacking your issues and the that you're bringing up, then the mods are going to act and they're going to mute those people. They're going to make sure that those people have their messages retracted, or they might get muted for a day. Why? Because that's how they roll. Because we're about treating people fairly here and equally here. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. No attacking of individuals. Unless you come after me, then I'm going to come right after back you. So that's how it be. You say you agree, I don't know, whatever. I would consider it an honor to be banned. Well, I mean, then don't complain about it. If you ended up doing something that would cause you to be banned from the show, either silenced or muted or banned, and then you would consider it an honor to have it done so, then don't complain about it, right? See. Why do I have mods? Well, I have mods because these awesome people offered to help out, and so they are people who I trust to make good decisions because I can't always sit here and have conversations with people on the phone, or have conversations or be talking about a particular issue where I'm wanting to focus in on the issue. I can't always be monitoring the chat, so that's why it's helpful to have moderators to assist with making sure that the people are behaving in a way that helps the show move forward. And while I don't mind certain amount of trollish behavior because it helps the algorithms, and as we all know, Al Gore needs more rhythm, they have the rights, they have the abilities to take whatever action they feel is necessary, and I'm not going to question them on it. Because I trust them to do what is right. As to whether or not Erin threatened you, I disbelieve. She just said, be careful. That's not a threat. That's just saying, be careful. That's not anything. But because you came in here, again, complaining about censorship, complaining about whatever, you come in, you ask about fake accents. You don't give any evidence or examples of what a fake accent might be. We say code switching. She said code switching. You laugh at the idea of code switching. And that's when she said for you to be careful. That's all she said. That's not a threat. It's not a threat of anything. She's just saying, hey, look, be careful, because this is not our first rodeo. And Bicycle Mike says, don't explain yourself, but I'm having fun. And I'm about to end the show anyway. So, this is not our first rodeo. This is not the first time we've had people come into the chat to act a certain way, to only then come out and start being trolls. And, well, if you fit the description as acting in the way that a troll might act, then we're going to be hesitant about trusting whether or not you're actually here for legitimate purposes or not. If you end up taking her advice and you end up being careful and you have intelligent conversations with us, then you're more than welcome to stay. You're more than welcome to have discussion and debate when we talk about all the issues that we're going to talk about from this day forward. But if you act like a troll and you act not in good faith, you're not going to be treated as if you're somebody here in good faith. And that shouldn't be surprising. Cicerna Monkey, I've never heard of code switching. I'll be honest. I learned more about this today, which is nice. Awesome. There you go. Liberal Dan Radio has done a service. We've taught people about. I hope more people could learn about code, because it's not normally something that you hear about unless you've had to deal with it, or if you've heard about it. I've heard about it, so I'm used to it at this point. I'm used to it being a thing, and it happens. It exists. So the more I could help, the more you know. The NBC thing, right? Yeah, learn. Open minds can learn. Yes, a mind is like a door. It only works if it can be opened, right? Put lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig. I don't know what you're talking about with that. I'm sure some people are going to assume sexist intent. It's just a Southern phrase, so don't necessarily imply sexism at that comment. I would say, but I don't know what pig is getting lipstick in your situation when you're talking about code switching. It still seems rather insulting to Vice President Harris to say that by code switching you're putting lipstick on a pig, which is then kind of dehumanizing to people. And I hope you would understand why people would take that poorly, right? I'm not assuming bad faith on this particular comment just because I'm well aware of the fact that this is a common phrase, but people are going to potentially take that badly simply because of the fact that you haven't been specific as to what you're talking about when it comes to different accents, and you laugh at code switching, and now you're saying put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. Well, what exactly are you trying to say? That's my point. I guess Jolie hasn't fallen asleep yet. So, lipstick on a pig, my code for barbecue sauce on ribs. A nice sticky sweet barbecue sauce, eh? You're gonna make me hungry again. Anyway, let us, since we only have 2 minutes left of Liberal Dan Radio, let us go ahead and say that this is the end of today's episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right. We will be back next Monday, unless anything big happens. Just stay tuned. Follow me, Liberal Dan Radio, on Twitter, Facebook, here on YouTube, Twitch, etc. I'll announce if there's special surprise shows. I'll try and let Andrea know so she can announce it on Al, but I'll also announce it on my other channels, so you can follow those other places as well. Until next Monday, this is Dan Zimmerman with Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right.
90 seconds. Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.